Chapter 106. All right, everyone except you could die now, Dianwei. Yi Hao knew what was going on and ordered Dianwei to kill all the city lords and the leaders of the strongholds. Ding dong. Chain Quest 2, 50% completed. Ding dong. Chain Quest 3, 5/7 completed. Yi Hao got a bunch of spiritual weapons again. Without checking them, Yi Hao put the city lord into the dragon prison lake and was about to go to the city lord's residence with Dianwei. Before Yi Hao could go out, a low and hoarse voice came from the sky. It was a level 3 martial spirit, and it shattered the door instantly. You're really lucky. You're not dead yet. Although Tanli had been in seclusion, he didn't dare to be careless, because he was scared of the force behind Mu Qingyu. Therefore, he had been observing Yin Huang's city in secret, and he noticed Yi Hao the moment he showed up. Master, let me kill this old thing. Sensing Tan Li's aura, Dianwei asked for instructions in disdain. How could a level 3 martial spirit be so presumptuous in front of his master? Go. Make it quick. Yi Hao nodded in agreement. How long could Tanli do anything with Dianwei around? 2 days ago, he was thrown into the lake like an ant. Naturally, he had to take revenge now. Who are you? Boy, why are you hiding in there? I'm going to kill you myself after I kill your lackey. Tanli looked at Dianwei in disdain and said arrogantly, Old thing, I'm disgusted to see you. Get out of here. Seeing that Tanli was looking down on him, Dianwei jumped at Tanli in the air and hit Tan Li's shriveled body with his halberd. Tanli looked at Dianwei in panic. How is it possible? Who are you? Tanli was smashed to the ground and looked at Dianwei in disbelief. He couldn't believe that Dianwei had defeated him so easily. He didn't even have the ability to dodge. Although he was a level 3 martial spirit, he was confident that he could kill a level 4 martial spirit. However, he couldn't see through Dianwei at all, which meant that the guy was at least a level 6 martial spirit. I hate you. Tan Li's hoarse voice filled the night sky, making people feel nervous and anxious. The commotion here immediately attracted the attention of the Allied forces. They quickly gathered and rushed over, surrounding the courtyard. Miss, there seems to be some movement outside. In a courtyard, the middle-aged martial king suddenly woke up and woke Mu Qingyu up. Master must have sent someone to save us, said Wu Jixiao, said excitedly. Impossible, it's best to be careful. Mu Qingyu raised her eyebrows, wrinkled her forehead, and said coldly, Father couldn't have gotten the news so quickly. Even if he had gotten the news, he couldn't have come to save him so quickly. Brother Huarong, do you think the Lord has come to save us? At this moment, Yang Xiaodao, with the help of the golden wound pill, had also saved his life. He lay on the ground and said with difficulty, Idiot! What are you talking about? Hearing Wu Jixiao's words, Huarong stood up and clenched his fists. Now that everyone's strength had been sealed and they were all ordinary people, Huarong was not afraid of Wu Jixiao at all. I'm talking about you, a bunch of idiots. You're still daydreaming here. No, it should be nighttime. Your master has already gone to hell. Fuck your mother. Yang Xiaodao ignored the serious injuries on his body, gritted his teeth, and got up. He threw Wu Jixiao to the ground, but Wu Jixiao was not injured and instantly flipped Yang Xiaodao over again. You cripple, you still want to hit me? Wu Jixiao spat and said disdainfully. Brothers, seeing Yang Xiaodao being bullied, how could Huarong tolerate it? With a shout, more than a dozen people rushed forward and kicked Wu Jixiao to the ground. Kick the chrysanthemum. Miss this. The middle-aged martial king saw this scene and looked at Mu Qingyu with a troubled expression. This Wu Jixiao deserves it. Mu Qingyu glanced at Wu Jixiao, who was being beaten up, and said, Yi Hao is the savior of the Mu family, and these people are Yi Hao subordinates. Now that their master is dead, it's good for them to vent their anger. Mu Qingyu thought back to the day when they were bickering. Yi Hao was standing on the city wall, and a look of longing appeared on her face. Although they had only met once, Yi Hao's figure kept appearing in her mind. She whispered, If only it was really Yi Hao outside. It's the first time I met such an interesting person. She looked at the door expectantly and missed him. Seeing this, the middle-aged martial king sighed and shook his head. Bang! The wooden door was smashed apart, and a shadow fell into the room. Everybody looked carefully, only to find that it was Tan Li. They were all surprised and disappointed when they saw Dian Wei, who had just walked in. They wished that it was their master who came in. Mu Qingyu was also disappointed. She stood up and asked Dian Wei, "Hero, may I know who you are?" Dian Wei glanced at everyone in the room and moved to the side without saying anything. A small figure walked out from behind him, but it attracted everyone's attention. How is this possible? Are you a man or a ghost? Weren't you killed by that old guy? How are you still alive? Wu Jixiao was the first to exclaim. Shut up. Yi Hao slapped Wu Jixiao's face. He was disgusted to see Wu Jixiao. Why are you so unhappy that old master Hao is still alive? How dare you hit me? Wu Jixiao stared at Yi Hao with murderous eyes in disbelief. He was a member of a challenger-level force. It was fine that he was beaten up by a group of people, but now he was slapped in public. How could he tolerate this? He waved his fist and charged at Yi Hao. Try to touch me again. Before Yi Hao could do anything, Dian Wei's weapon was already at Wu Jixiao's neck. Wu Jixiao didn't dare to move at all. Dian Wei's murderous aura made him tremble with fear. Sir, let's talk nicely. Can you put down your weapon first? Wu Jixiao smiled obsequiously. City Lord Yi, can you ask this sir to put down his weapon first? We're on the same side. CKU. This guy was too shameless. Yi Hao could still vividly remember his arrogance at the gates of Yanhuang City. Now that he was saying that he was one of them, Yi Hao could not help but want to slap him to death. But he glanced at Mu Qingyu and smiled slyly. Kneel down and sing Conquer for me. Don't go too far. Wu Jixiao felt like his tail had been stepped on when he was asked to kneel. How could he, a martial king, kneel down? He had dignity, but when he met Dian Wei's ferocious eyes, he lost all his dignity and knelt down. I don't know how to sing. Chapter 107. I was conquered by you just like that, Pa. Louder. Just like that, Pa. It's out of tune. Everyone stood rooted to the ground, watching Yi Hao continuously slapping Wu Jixiao's face. In their hearts, they were all mourning for Wu Jixiao. Looking at his swollen head, they could see that he still had some arrogance left. Master, you're really fine. That's great. I said that Master's luck is great. How could he die so easily? Yang Xiaodao laughed foolishly with Li Jin's help. Yi Hao indicated that he was fine and gave him a few golden sore pills to recover. He looked at Mu Qingyu, who was standing at the side. She was dressed in a martial artist's outfit, which set off her valiant figure. Her expression was cold, but her beautiful eyes were filled with deep concern. At this moment, she was staring at him. Are you okay? Seeing Yi Hao staring at her like this, Mu Qingyu's originally silent heart jumped for no reason. However, her tone was still very cold, as if she was thousands of miles away from him. It seems like you care about me a lot. Have you taken a fancy to me? Yi Hao's mental age was at least 20 years old. Mu Qingyu's expression was cold, but the concern in her eyes could not be faked. Mu Qingyu looked at Yi Hao and rolled her eyes. Little brat, how could this elder sister like you? If you don't dare to admit it, then forget it. Yi Hao clicked his tongue. It was all this damn system's fault for transmigrating him into a child's body. However, the system did it for his own good. He could only awaken the innate sacred martial spirit body before the age of 10. This would be of great help to him in the future. Brother Xiao. Yi Hao suddenly saw a figure in the corner. After careful observation, he realized that it was Xiao Yun and quickly ran over. Mu Qingyu saw Yi Hao walk away and let out a sigh of relief. How could she be nervous in front of a child who was younger than her by a few years? Mu Qingyu comforted herself. Yi Hao inspected Xiao Yun's injuries and discovered that all of his bones had been crushed. His expression turned cold, and the rage in his heart soared to the heavens. Break Tan Li's limbs for me. Dian Wei was greatly alarmed. His master had never been so infuriated before. Without any hesitation, he waved his halberds and cut off Tan Li's limbs. Ah, kill me if you can. Tan Li almost fainted from the pain. He looked at his 4 limbs scattered around him and glared viciously at Yi Hao. His hoarse voice was like a ghost howl as he lay in a pool of blood and wailed in pain. I'm not done with you. Wu Jixiao looked at Tan Li, whose limbs had been chopped off, and felt even more terrified. He looked at Yi Hao, afraid that he would end up like Tan Li. He's so young, but he's actually so loyal, and his methods are so ruthless. Mu Qingyu's gaze changed. She stared at Yi Hao's back curiously. He didn't look like a child at all. Brother Xiao, it's all my fault. Hurry up and take this elixir. Yi Hao looked at Xiao Yun's miserable state with self-blame. But Xiao Yun was already a martial king, so the golden sword elixir was useless. He thought for a moment and quickly took out a 9-revolution soul elixir from his space. The moment the elixir was taken out, the entire room was filled with divine light. A divine elixir? The same thought flashed through everyone's mind. They looked at Yi Hao in shock. They couldn't believe that he would give such a precious elixir to someone else. It should be known that a divine elixir could cause many powerful empires to fight over it. Having a divine elixir was equivalent to having a life. Even a saint wouldn't be willing to give a divine elixir to someone else so easily, not even his own family members. Who is he? Mu Qingyu, Tan Li, and the others were extremely curious. A child could casually give out a divine elixir and was protected by experts. Even a direct descendant of a martial saint's family couldn't be compared to him. A divine elixir. It's actually a divine elixir. Tan Li was lying in a pool of blood. His face was pale, and his bark-like skin was even more terrifying. He stared at the 9 revolutions soul elixir in Yi Hao's hand, drooling. If he had this elixir, not only would he be able to regrow his limbs, but he would also be able to recover his ghostly appearance. Now, he was filled with regret. He knew that Yi Hao definitely had a space treasure on him. He hated himself for not searching Yi Hao's body carefully back then. Xiaoyan opened his eyes and looked at Yi Hao with a joyful smile. I knew it. Brother Yi, you wouldn't die so easily. Brother Xiao, don't speak first. Eat this elixir. Yi Hao looked at Xiao Yun's weak appearance and smiled as he brought the 9 revolution soul elixir to his mouth. This is a divine elixir? Brother Yi, this is too precious. I can't accept it. Although Xiao Yun didn't know the grade of the elixir, he couldn't be wrong about the divine elixir. He didn't expect Yi Hao to be willing to give him the divine elixir. He was so grateful that tears welled up in his eyes. Wu Jixiao swallowed his saliva as he stared at the divine elixir in Yi Hao's hand. He couldn't help but say, Do you know that this is a divine elixir? If a first-level martial king were to use it, it would be a tyrannical heavenly treasure. At the very least, he would be able to get a martial emperor to follow him. Did I ask you to stop? How can a martial emperor be more important than Brother Zhao's life? Yi Hao frowned and looked at Wu Jixiao with dissatisfaction. Wu Jixiao lowered his head in resentment. He had kindly reminded Xiao Yun, but Xiao Yun didn't appreciate it. Thank you, but I really can't accept it. Xiao Yun was even more grateful when he heard Yi Hao's words. However, Wu Jixiao was right. A divine elixir was too precious. He couldn't accept it. It's fine if you don't want to eat it. Then pretend that we never knew each other. Yi Hao said seriously. Just eat it. Don't make things difficult for Yi Hao. However, this divine elixir is too wasteful for you to eat it alone. Mu Qingyu stepped forward and glanced at everyone. You can find a bowl of water and dissolve the divine elixir in it. Then let your injured subordinates drink it. Is that still useful? Yi Hao didn't understand. Mu Qingyu brushed a strand of hair behind her head and looked at Yi Hao strangely. Did he really not know how powerful a divine elixir was? Or was he just pretending not to know? However, she still patiently said, A divine elixir can heal even a martial emperor's injuries as long as they still have a breath left. This divine elixir is more than enough for them. Yi Hao nodded thoughtfully. However, when he thought about how a 9-revolution soul return elixir would be able to heal the dragon's severe injuries, he got someone to bring him a bucket of water and his own elixir furnace. This made everyone even more curious. Mu Qingyu stole a glance at Yi Hao. Inside, she muttered, Could it be that he's a disciple of some alchemy faction? But how could he not know how powerful a divine elixir is? How could he take it out and give it away so casually without any reluctance? This made Mu Qingyu even more curious about Yi Hao's identity. That was because Yi Hao was too mysterious. She didn't know why he would appear in such a small place. Could it be that he was a disciple of some large faction and had come out to gain experience? Chapter 108. Yi Hao cut the 9 transformation soul return pill into 2 portions and gave a quarter to Xiao Yun. The rest was put into the cauldron to be refined and distributed to his subordinates. There was still half a cauldron of solution left. Yi Hao put it into his space. In Yi Hao's opinion, this dissolved pill was even more effective than the golden injury pill. Wu Jixiao looked at the injured people enviously. This was a divine pill. Many people didn't even get to see what a divine pill looked like. Now it was given to these trash. He was jealous of Yi Hao, but there was nothing he could do. Brother Xiao, I want you to meet someone. Seeing that Xiao Yun had recovered and was about to bow to him, Yi Hao quickly stopped him. With a thought, he released the city lord from his space. Grandpa Dragon, Ancestor Dragon, don't eat me. The city lord was tortured by the giant dragon in Dragon Prison Lake. Now that he was released by Yi Hao, he didn't realize it and kept kowtowing. He didn't feel anything even when his scalp was bruised. A spatial immortal item and a spatial treasure that can store living things. Everyone looked at Yi Hao and realized that Yi Hao was even more mysterious. They were even more certain that Yi Hao was a direct descendant of a big family or a hidden family. Xiao Yun was slightly surprised when he saw this. But when he looked at Yi Hao's chest, he revealed a relieved expression and didn't ask further. Yi Hao touched his forehead embarrassedly. He already knew that Xiao Yun had guessed it. After all, this was Xiao Yun's ancestor's immortal item. Brother Xiao, Xiao Yun smiled in relief. He glanced at Wu Jixiao and the others, indicating that there were too many people here. Yi Hao nodded. After all, it was impossible to judge a book by its cover. He had been too careless. After all, he still didn't fully understand Mu Qingyu and the others. Stop kowtowing. If you want to live, then tell Brother Xiao what you told me just now. Yi Hao coldly shouted and kicked the city lord who was kowtowing like he was pounding garlic. Only then did the city lord realize that he was no longer in the Dragon Prison Lake. He collapsed on the ground, panting heavily. He was secretly glad that he was almost eaten by the evil dragon. Fortunately, he was released by Yi Hao. The city lord looked at Yi Hao in fear. When he saw that Yi Hao was looking at him coldly, he subconsciously looked around and realized that he was lying in a pool of blood with limbs scattered around him. He no longer had any reservations and hurriedly knelt in front of Xiao Yun. Your Highness, this was all done by Tanli. I only found out about it from the Devil of the Night. Stop talking nonsense and focus on the main points. If you dare to say such useless things again, I'll fry you. Yi Hao saw that Xiao Yun was still confused and directly kicked his butt. Soon, the city lord told Xiao Yun everything he knew. Xiao Yun's face was filled with disbelief. He couldn't believe that he had been deceived for so many years. He had always thought that this was really done by the evil dragon. There were several times when he couldn't help but want to fight the evil dragon. It turned out that all of this was Tan Li's plan. Not only did he destroy the entire Xiao Huang city, he also forced all of this on the evil dragon. In addition, Tan Li spread the news in secret, making people believe him even more. Xiao Yun believed that if he hadn't broken through to the Martial King realm, he would have been killed by Tan Li. Xiao Yun looked at Tan Li, who was lying in a pool of blood. His eyes were filled with killing intent, and he wished that he could cut him into pieces. Brother Yi, thank you for letting me know all of this. Can you let me deal with this, Tan Li? Xiao Yun looked at Yi Hao, who was standing quietly at the side, and thanked him from the bottom of his heart. At the same time, he asked pleadingly. Yi Hao nodded in agreement. It was just killing a person. How could he refuse? After all, this was the enmity of exterminating one's family. What could be more serious than this in the world? City Lord Yi, I've said all that I need to say. Can you let me go? The city lord looked at Yi Hao pleadingly. Yi Hao looked at the city lord, who was kneeling on the ground, and gave Dianwei a look. Dianwei instantly understood and cut off the city lord's head with his halberd. Speak. Why did you massacre my entire family? Tell me, what did my Xiao family do to you? There are tens of thousands of people in a city. Is your heart so sinister? Blood rushed to Xiao Yun's heart, and he almost fainted. His nails dug into his flesh as he looked at Tan Li, who was lying in a pool of blood with hatred. When he thought of the tens of thousands of people in Shaohuang City being killed by the person in front of him, who was usually respectful to him, he thought of how he was a beast with a human face. Xiaoyan thought that the Xiao family had treated him well. How could he do it? Aha! Cultivators' interests are paramount. The strong are righteous. I've lost. Kill me. I have nothing to say. Tan Li's body was covered in blood as he looked at Xiao Yun and laughed crazily. Kill you? You're dreaming. I'm going to cut you up piece by piece. I'm going to dig out your heart and see what color it is. Xiao Yun's eyes were red. He grabbed Tan Li's head, ignoring the blood on his body. Your imperial sister and imperial sisters-in-law are really good. Your imperial mother is the best. She's so comfortable in front of your imperial father. Tan Li said with a laugh when he saw Xiao Yun's craziness. I still can't forget your imperial father's expression. I've never thought that a person would look like that when they're extremely angry. That's right, it's just like you. I'm going to kill you. Sure enough, Xiao Yun couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed Dian Wei's weapon, but Yi Hao quickly stopped him. Brother Yi, I beg you, don't stop me. I'm going to kill this beast. Everyone also looked at Tan Li indignantly. What was the point of keeping such an ingrate alive if they didn't kill him? They looked at Tan Li in confusion, not knowing why he was stopping them. Brother Xiao, don't worry. It's too easy for him if you kill him so easily, Yi Hao said when he saw everyone's confusion. He was also furious. Yi Hao took out the pill furnace that he put in the system and poured some on Tan Li's body. Tan Li's blood stopped flowing and his wounds healed quickly. Brother Xiao, do it. Don't cut off his head so easily. He won't die. Yi Hao stepped aside and gave Xiao Yun his position. Only then did everyone realize what Yi Hao wanted to do. They shivered at the thought of it, but it did relieve their hatred. Thank you. Xiao Yun thanked him again. He took the dagger that Yi Hao gave him with eyes full of hatred and kept cutting Tan Li's shriveled body. After Xiao Yun cut him, Yang Xiaodao immediately poured some holy pill water and the wound healed immediately. Tan Li wanted to die, but he couldn't. He wanted to struggle, but he didn't have any limbs. He could only enjoy the death of 1,000 cuts. Let's all go out. Let Brother Xiao vent his anger. Yi Hao ignored Tan Li's hateful eyes and said to his subordinates like a dying man. The soldiers outside had already been released, and more than half of the allied army had been killed. At this moment, Yi He's soul points were nearing the 200,000 mark. Chapter 109. Yi Hao didn't expect Mu Qingyu to leave so soon either. The first time they met, they quarreled. The second time they met, they were separated for a long time. He didn't know if they would ever meet again. Even if they did, he didn't know when it would be. Yi Hao looked at the golden token in his hand and reluctantly put it away. Don't worry, kings are snobbish. I'll go. Yi Hao looked at the three almost invisible figures in the distance and whispered, galloping on the road. This was the second time in her life that Mu Qingyu felt so reluctant to part. The first time was when her sister passed away. She was sad for several months. Now, she felt this way for a child she only met twice. Suddenly, a smile appeared on Mu Qingyu's cold face. Maybe he's different from others. Mu Qingyu took out a pill bottle from her bosom. It was a gift from Yi Hao. There was also a sword-like object wrapped in rags. This was the first time she accepted a gift from a man, even if he was just a child. She didn't want to accept it, but Yi Hao didn't let her go when she didn't accept it. She had no choice but to accept it. Mu Qingyu couldn't hold back her curiosity and stopped the horse. Wu Jixiao and the middle-aged martial king also looked at her curiously. Wu Jixiao couldn't help but sneer when he saw Mu Qingyu pick up the sword-like object wrapped in rags. Perhaps he was still thinking about how Yi Hao made him kneel on the ground and sing Conquer. That was the greatest humiliation he had ever suffered in his life. If it wasn't for Dian Wei, he would have killed Yi Hao. It's just a ragged bag. What could it be? It must be some scrap metal. Wu Jixiao said disdainfully. Mu Qingyu opened the rags, and a long sword as white as snow appeared in front of her. She pulled out the long sword. It was covered in snow lotuses and emitted a cold air. She liked it so much that she couldn't bear to part with it. A fourth-grade spiritual weapon. The middle-aged martial king was shocked when he saw the long sword in his young Miss's hand. His face lit up and he shouted in surprise. Even the entire Mu family, one wouldn't be able to find 2 Tier 4 spirit artifacts. There was no way he was mistaken about the aura on it. You're just a piece of scrap metal. Why don't you find one for me? For some reason, Mu Qingyu hated Wu Jixiao and sneered coldly. Wu Jixiao curled his lips, too embarrassed to say anything more. Even if he sold himself, he wouldn't be able to take out a Tier 4 spirit artifact. The Mu clan's patriarch's weapon was only a rank 4 spirit tool. He was extremely depressed. It was such a good treasure. Who asked Yi how to wrap it in a rag? Could it be that he wanted to keep his wealth to himself? That was impossible. He actually gave it to a woman. Shouldn't he package it better? At this moment, Wu Jixiao's heart was filled with jealousy and hatred. Mu Qingyu clenched the pill bottle in her hand. She didn't dare to open it because she already thought of a terrifying possibility. Mu Qingyu felt her heartbeat quicken. I've only met him twice. It shouldn't be possible. But when she thought of Yihao's words, she couldn't help but blush. You brat, staying alive is the most important thing. I still want to bicker with you. Remember to live well. A little thief will always be a little thief. He's so young and already knows how to use flowery words. Mu Qingyu thought back to Yihao's serious words and snorted. But the redness at the corner of her eyes couldn't hide her true thoughts. The middle-aged martial king saw all of this and shook his head with a bitter smile. He didn't say anything. I hope young Miss doesn't fall in love. Thinking of everything about Yihao, the middle-aged martial king realized that he couldn't see through Yihao. Mu Qingyu opened the pill bottle a crack. When she saw the holy light inside, she knew that her guess was right. She quickly closed the bottle. She was extremely touched, but she couldn't let others know. After all, in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent, martial artists were respected and benefits were paramount. People's hearts were unfathomable. A Tier 8 healing pill. Not bad. Mu Qingyu purposely showed a trace of disappointment. I knew that kid couldn't be so generous. I thought it was a holy pill. Seeing Mu Qingyu's disappointed expression, Wu Jixiao didn't let go of the opportunity and mocked her again. Mu Qingyu didn't want to bother with him. She put the pill back into her clothes and hugged her sword. Hiya. Thank you, master. Xiaoyan finally walked out of his room after torturing Tan Li for an entire day. His hair was disheveled, and his white clothes were dyed red with blood. He looked as if he had just crawled out of hell. Before Yihao could get up to speak, Xiaoyan knelt on the ground. Brother Xiao, what are you doing? Get up quickly. Seeing Xiaoyan kneel on the ground, Yihao quickly stood up and tried to help him up. Master, you could just call me by my name. Master, you helped me find the enemy who destroyed my family and let me kill him myself. I, Xiaoyan, no longer have any regrets in my life. So, I want to follow Master. Xiaoyan didn't get up. Instead, he spoke in a carefree manner. Of course I welcome you. Yihao laughed and helped Xiaoyan up. At the same time, a system notification sounded out. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing Mission 3. Subduing 7 cities. You have received a big mystery gift pack. Yihao was extremely excited. Although he didn't truly subdue the 7 cities, he had killed all the city lords of the 7 cities except for Xiaoyan, who had submitted to him. This was a tacit agreement that he had completed the mission. Yihao checked Xiaoyan's information and found that Xiaoyan's loyalty was above 90. It was really not easy. Xiaoyan was the person with the strongest talent in this world that he had subdued. He had relied on himself to cultivate to the first level of Martial King. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for subduing the first high-grade martial artist in the Myriad Kingdom continent. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for subduing the first peerless martial artist in the Myriad Kingdom continent. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining a high-grade mystic class cultivation technique. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining a big mystery gift pack. Damn, there's actually such a benefit. What I lack the most right now is a cultivation technique. I've always been worried that my subordinates wouldn't be able to cultivate. Now, I finally have a cultivation technique. That's right. Furthermore, I've received 2 big mystery gift packs in a row. The items in the big mystery gift pack will definitely not be bad. Yi Hao thought excitedly. He looked at Xiao Yun with even more joy. This Xiao Yun was really his lucky star. Xiao Yun had a puzzled expression. Why was Yi Hao suddenly so happy? However, he didn't ask in detail. Yi Hao handed a bottle of Erguo to Xiao Yun. He lazily reclined on the chair and said, Xiao Yun, I order you. Tonight, you will lead the army and eliminate all the bandits within a 100-mile radius. Chapter 110. Chief, bad news. The army of Yin Huang City is attacking us. One of the underlings shouted anxiously. As he ran, his shoes fell off, but he did not feel it at all. He was panting heavily, and his face was filled with panic. Oomph. Attack us? Then let them attack us. There are still 40 to 50 strongholds in front. We'll talk about it when they reach us. The chief looked at his underlings with dissatisfaction and said without a care, although more than half of the surrounding strongholds have been destroyed recently, there were still 200 to 300 strongholds of various sizes. Although they were not strong, their overall strength was definitely not to be underestimated. If Yin Huang City wanted to attack them, it would take at least 10 days to half a month. If they had the time, they would have packed up and fled long ago. Stockade Master. Yin Huang City is leading countless troops. They are a dark mass and have already attacked Second Tiger Mountain. It will be our turn soon. Seeing that the Stockade Master was not in a hurry, the underling said anxiously. The wine cup in the chief's hand fell to the ground. With a face of disbelief, he stood up and scolded. Impossible. What are you guys doing scouting for? How can there be so many people from Yin Huang City and so quickly? Reporting to the chief, according to my investigation, the person leading the troops this time is actually Xiao Yun. More than 20 chiefs have already been killed, and the rest have voluntarily opened the gates to surrender. How can Xiao Yun surrender to Yin Huang City? Not good. Quickly gather the brothers and run. We can't stay here for long. When the chief heard Xiao Yun's name, he also panicked. Just as the underling was about to leave, another underling ran in. Reporting to the chief, the Yin Huang City troops have already surrounded the stronghold. We have no way out. Damn it. How can this be? This speed is too fast. The chief slumped on the chair and looked outside in a daze. Chief, what should we do now? The two underlings looked at each other and asked anxiously when they saw that the chief was out of his wits. What else can we do? Open the gates and surrender, the chief said helplessly. In a night, the name of Yin Huang City spread for thousands of miles. All the major powers were investigating who had the ability to annihilate more than 300 strongholds in one night. The most terrifying thing was that not a single person had escaped. This caused some of the nearby powers to turn pale. All of them shut their city gates tightly. The weaker powers formed alliances, afraid that the troops of Yin Huang City would arrive at the city gates in the next second. Luckily, Yin Huang City had only dealt with the territory within a 100-mile radius and had not touched other territories. At this moment, Yin Huang City was comparable to the Shao Marquis country. The 8 main cities were interconnected, and outsiders did not dare to act rashly. At the same time, many marquee countries secretly sent people to investigate who was controlling Yin Huang City and causing such a huge commotion. Greetings, my lord. This subordinate has already cleaned up the area within a 100-li radius. From now on, Yin Huang City is the only power within a 100-mile radius. Xiao Yun escorted close to 50,000 soldiers back to Yin Huang City to pay their respects. If 50,000 captives were mixed together, it would be a huge disaster if they weren't careful. The fact that Xiao Yun was able to escort all of these people back proved that Xiao Yun's ability wasn't ordinary. Yi Hao stood on the city wall. Seeing the noisy captives below, he bellowed in dissatisfaction. Silence. However, many of the captives glanced at Yi Hao with contempt and continued to ignore him. They continued to speak loudly below, and it was even louder than before. Many of the stronghold leaders were laughing in their hearts. They were very happy that Yi Hao was defeated. So what if you captured us? If we don't listen to you, you can't do anything about it. Many of them secretly wanted to see how Yi Hao would deal with it. In the distant mountains, there were many other powers observing how Yi Hao would deal with so many captives. Good, very good. I gave you face, but you didn't want it. Yi Hao laughed and clapped his hands. Some people felt their hair stand on end. Everyone did not understand. Had this brat gone mad from anger? How could he still laugh at this moment? Yi Hao stood on the city wall and scanned the 50,000 captives, as well as the scouts of other powers hidden in the distance. He kept pacing back and forth. Everyone did not understand what Yi Hao was trying to do. I'll give you 3 minutes. Listen to me and stand to the left, Yi Hao suddenly said. After that, he sat down on a chair and looked down coldly. Chief Li, what should we do now? Chief Sun, should we go over now? What's there to be afraid of? Let's not go over. Let's see what he can do. After hearing Yi Hao's words, many of the stronghold leaders discussed in groups of 3 to 5. However, no one listened to Yi Hao. They stood on the spot and watched coldly. They wanted to know what Yi Hao was trying to do. Since the chief did not move, their subordinates would not move either. It seems that you all have a backbone. After a minute, Yi Hao nodded and said when he saw that no one was willing to go over. Everyone wanted to see Yi Hao make a fool of himself. When the chief saw that his subordinates were very obedient, he was very satisfied. Everyone wanted to see what Yi Hao was going to do. He couldn't possibly kill them, right? They saw Yi Hao suddenly take out a Gatling gun from his space. The smile on his face disappeared, and his expression turned cold. He was like a different person. The moment Yi Hao took out the Gatling gun, countless archers appeared from all around. They aimed their bows and arrows at the 50,000 captives. At the same time, the remaining soldiers of Yanhuang City sealed off their escape route. The captives turned back to look and saw a burly man the size of a small mountain. He held 2 halberds in his hands and floated above their heads. He looked down at the Alliance army below with contempt. Martial spirit expert. A terrifying thought came to everyone's mind. The realms in a myriad kingdom continent were divided into martial artist, martial general, Wu Ho, martial king, martial spirit, Emperor Wu, martial venerable, martial emperor, martial sage, and a legendary martial god. A martial spirit expert was a member of a spirit-level force. He was definitely an existence that could dominate a king-level force. The most recognizable symbol of the martial spirit realm was that he could fly at a low altitude for a short period of time. No one understood why a martial spirit expert would appear here. If the news spread, it would definitely attract the attention of the higher-ups. The spies didn't dare to act rashly. They hurried back to report and didn't dare to stay here. Among the spies who came here, the strongest was only a king, and they were basically from a small force. They could still do whatever they wanted in this level 8 area, but before a martial spirit expert, they had to keep a low profile. At this moment, the captives were no longer as stubborn as before. Many people looked at Dianwei with admiration. After all, the strong were respected in the myriad kingdom continent. It was the wish of most people to see a martial spirit expert. If they could get some guidance, their achievements would definitely be different. Many people had already walked to the left. Some were in fear, some were in admiration. Everyone had different thoughts in their hearts. You come here. Yi Hao is a little satisfied. If he didn't teach these people a lesson, they wouldn't know the difference between heaven and earth. He pointed at a minion expressionlessly. The minion pointed at himself in disbelief. He didn't understand why Yi Hao called him over. He looked at Yi Hao fearfully and moved with difficulty. Greetings, City Lord. The minion bowed. Why are you the first to come over? Yi Hao asked. Chapter 111. Yi Hao nodded his head in satisfaction. Not bad. What weapon do you usually use? He asked softly. The underling didn't understand what Yi Hao meant. Reporting to the city lord, I'm used to using a blade. But he still answered honestly. Yi Hao scanned the system space and selected a level 1 spiritual weapon. This is the Silver Cloud Blade. I hope you can perform well and don't disappoint me. Level 1 spiritual weapons were the most abundant at the moment. The system would reward him with a spiritual weapon every time he destroyed a village. However, there were only a few level 2 spiritual weapons, only a dozen or so. not to mention level 3 spiritual weapons. The only level 4 spiritual weapon he had was too feminine, so he gave it to Mu Qingyu. However, he still had the blood-stained dual blades. It was a pity that he couldn't use his skills anymore. However, the second mission hadn't been completed yet. This made Yi Hao very depressed. It seemed that he had to deal with the people in front of him first. Yi Hao waved the silver cloud blade and threw it down. The silver cloud blade stabbed into the ground, causing dust to fly up. The underling was stunned. He felt the spiritual power on it. This is a spiritual weapon. The underling looked at the silver cloud blade on the ground in disbelief. After a long time, he suddenly knelt on the ground. Zhu Leking greets the city lord. Through this scene, even more people started to walk to the left. This was a spirit artifact. He gave it away just like that. How generous was this? At this moment, more village leaders walked to the left. They couldn't resist the temptation of the spiritual weapon and the threat of the archers around them. In their opinion, if a normal underling could get a spiritual weapon, why couldn't they? There's still 1 minute left. Yi Hao counted the time in his heart and spoke again. Looking at the hesitant people below, his heart was filled with coldness. Seeing that the people below didn't move, the people on the left were slightly more than the people on the right. He said disappointedly, "Kill them." Under Yi Hao's command, the one-sided massacre began again. Instantly, screams shook the sky. Countless arrows shot into the crowd, killing a large area. Gatling guns played beautiful music at the side. The Grim Reaper instantly descended, mercilessly harvesting everyone's lives. Why? Isn't there still a minute? The captives who were standing still saw the people around them fall into pools of blood one by one. They didn't understand why Yi Hao would suddenly attack. "I'm the king here. What I say goes. I gave you a chance earlier, but you didn't want it. I'll send you on your way at the last minute," Yi Hao said in a dignified tone. After that, he snorted again. "Now that you know there's only 1 minute left, what are you going to do?" Yi Hao's voice traveled into everyone's ears. The captives standing on the left were kneeling in fear. Everyone was glad that they had made the right choice. Now, they understood that they were the biggest laughingstock that they had wanted to see Yi Hao make a fool of himself. They had never expected that the young man, with a cheeky smile in front of them, would be so decisive and ruthless. He killed as he pleased. He did not play by the rules at all. All of you remember this. I am the absolute ruler of this area. If anyone dares to cause trouble for me, they will end up like these people. Do any of you have any objections? Yi Hao turned his gaze to the left and said with a serious expression. Seeing that everyone was kneeling on the ground without saying a word, Yi Hao shot the Gatling gun in his hand in front of everyone, stirring up a cloud of dust. "Speak. We have no objections. Everything will be decided by the Castellan." Everyone was frightened by the sound of the Gatling gun. They held their heads and shouted loudly, afraid that Yi Hao would kill them if he was unhappy. Yi Hao had always been protective of his own people, but he would never show mercy to his enemies. After all, these captives were not from the regular army. They were all bandits. There was no lack of vicious people among them. If he wanted to subdue them directly, they would be a disaster. This was something that Yi Hao could not tolerate. He didn't want his own backyard to be in trouble one day. He could only suppress them with iron-blooded means. It wasn't that he didn't give them a chance. They could only blame themselves for not cherishing it. These bandits could either be subdued or killed. Otherwise, they would be a disaster or become his enemies. If that was the case, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. "Xiao Yun, you are in charge of collecting these corpses. Bury a mountain of corpses over there." Yi Hao pointed to a pothole on the only road in Yanhuang City. "Yes." Xiao Yun obeyed the order. He knew that Yi Hao wanted to use ruthless means to intimidate the enemy. This was more than 20,000 corpses. If they were to pile up into a mountain of corpses, it would be terrifying to look at. It wasn't that there weren't any mountains of corpses. A mountain of corpses was a symbol of an emperor. The more corpses there were, the stronger the emperor was. However, those who dared to do so would have to face the attacks of other powers. Generally, those without a strong foundation wouldn't dare to do so. On the 10,000 Kingdoms continent, it was said that each holy empire didn't use any other defenses. Their strongest defense was the mountain of corpses. It was said that some holy empires had mountain of corpses that covered millions of kilometers. Using corpses to prove a holy empire's foundation was a little exaggerated. However, to be able to become a holy empire, which one of them didn't use corpses to establish their strong position? A holy empire would appear every tens of thousands of years. How many corpses would it take to form a mountain of corpses that covered millions of kilometers? It wasn't much at all. Instead, it made other countries fearful. Let the enemy see the mountain of corpses before deciding whether they dared to defy the Holy Empire's position. There was no lack of bloodthirsty people in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. The legend of the origin of the Mountain of Corpses was still circulating in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. Qian Huang was a crazy person in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. This person had a special liking for killing. At the same time, he was also very talented. As his power grew stronger, the number of people he killed naturally increased. Wherever his troops went, they would kill. It was as though they were on the path of a killing god. More than half of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent had been traversed by him, leaving behind a mountain of corpses that ran through half of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. Later on, the martial gods and martial sages couldn't take it anymore and joined forces to kill Qian Huang. Later on, some people said that Qian Huang was killed, while others said that Qian Huang broke through the void. However, that battle was earth-shattering. At the same time, the 10,000 Kingdoms continent strength was greatly damaged. 3 martial gods died, 2 were severely injured, and more than half of the 200 martial sages fell. Although Qian Huang had disappeared, the Mountain of Corpses was loved by many emperors. It was seen as a symbol of strength. Of course, Yihao didn't think so much about it. It was just that others misunderstood. 10,000 Souls design. This was a design that Yihao had found in the legacy. This design didn't have many requirements for the carving of the design. The more corpses there were, the stronger the design. Yihao naturally didn't want to waste these corpses. He was about to return home, and he couldn't be at ease here. If he could set up the 10,000 Souls design, at least Yin Huang City could attack and retreat. If he used it well, with so many corpses, he should be able to kill martial spirits. If he was lucky, he might even be able to kill Emperor Wu. Yihao wanted to play with these, so he started to recruit troops. Under Yihao's ruthless methods and a bunch of temptations, no one dared to resist. All of them obediently followed his arrangements. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for completing the second mission, subduing 360 bandit mountains. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for obtaining the big mystery gift pack. Chapter 112. At night, Yihao brought Dianwei alone to the Mountain of Corpses. The Mountain of Corpses had undergone special treatment and were now all skeletons. Therefore, there was no need to worry about a plague. This made Yihao feel more at ease. Master, what are we doing here? Dianwei saw Yihao circling the Mountain of Corpses, looking left and right. Dianwei had an evil thought. Master wouldn't be interested in these skeletons, right? Before he could finish his thoughts, Yihao slapped him on the head. What are you thinking about? Hurry up and get to work. Move that tree away from me. Yihao observed his surroundings and changed the position of some of the trees. At the same time, he observed his surroundings and compared them with the knowledge he had obtained from the inheritance. He was delighted. This is really a treasure ground, specially created for the 10,000 Souls formation. Yihao was now confident that he could set up a formation that could kill a martial emperor. Yihao took out the materials for the design from Dragon Prison Lake and quickly set it up according to the steps in his mind. However, the design was more troublesome. After a night, Yihao had only completed 10% of the design. If not for the legacy in his mind, Yihao would have given up long ago. It was too troublesome. During the day, Yihao did not want to be discovered. Therefore, he went back to sleep and continued to work at night. On the third day, Zhou Hongling was brought to Yin Huang City by Yihao's men. Greetings to your highness and master. When everyone saw Yihao, they all bowed with tears in their eyes. Sisterling, why are you all in Shao City? Did something happen to father? Back in the city lord residence, Yi Hao arranged for everyone to rest. Looking at Jiu Hongling, whose eyes were red, he asked with heartache. Logically speaking, they should be in Yi. Could something have happened? Yi Hao was a little nervous. No. When His Majesty saw you disappear, he arranged for us to leave the country of Yi. We headed west and came to Shao City. We also heard news about your highness. Jiu Hongling was a little shy after Yi Hao wiped away her tears. Her little nose twitched as she spoke. That's good. Sister Ling, this is for you. Yi Hao heaved a sigh of relief. In his heart, he was most worried about father. He thought that his imperial father was probably afraid that there would be no one to take care of Jiu Hongling and the others in the capital while he was away. If that happened, his imperial brother would come looking for trouble, so he sent them out to lie low for a while. In the end, it was a free combination of factors that allowed them to meet first. Yi Hao found that Jiu Hongling had lost a lot of weight in the past few months. His heart ached. Jiu Hongling's heart. So many of them too. Now, Your Highness, what kind of pill is this? Jiu Hongling asked curiously. But when she thought of how precious the pill was, she quickly shook her head and refused. Your Highness, this servant didn't do anything for you. This servant doesn't dare to take this pill. Yi Hao smiled and stroked Jiu Hongling's hair. Jiu Hongling's face instantly turned red. Yi Hao said, Sister Ling, this pill is my reward for you. Hurry and eat it. Reward me? Jiu Hongling's eyes widened. She looked at Yi Hao in confusion. She didn't understand why Yi Hao would suddenly reward her. That's right. Yi Hao pinched Jiu Hongling's cheeks. You helped me bring so many subordinates here, and you even found me. Shouldn't I be thanking you? Also, Sister Ling, you have to take care of me. You're still an ordinary person. What if you collapse from exhaustion? Yi Hao saw Jiu Hongling's pondering expression and continued to speak with a smile. Jiu Hongling took the pill. Thank you, Your Highness. Hongling wants to stay by Your Highness's side forever. Jiu Hongling smiled mischievously. She opened her mouth and swallowed the pill. Relax. The energy in your body is normal. Just close your eyes for a while. Feeling the dense energy in her body, Jiu Hongling was a bit flustered. She looked helplessly at Yi Hao. Yi Hao comforted her. The energy here was much stronger than in Yi. The first time she had used the Dragon Tiger pill to break through, it had caused a phenomenon. She had even been mistaken for a god. The energy here was much stronger than in Yi. Jiu Hongling quickly opened her eyes and looked excitedly at Yi Hao. Your Highness, I feel that I've become very strong. Have I become a martial artist now? Yi Hao was also very happy to see Jiu Hongling's happy expression. When he was a fool, it was Jiu Hongling who had always taken care of him. This was something Yi Hao would never forget. So in his heart, Jiu Hongling's position was second only to Yi Batian. You're a martial artist now. Moreover, you're already a 10th rank martial artist, the same rank as Zilong. Yi Hao said slowly. At the same time, he handed the high-grade Mystic class skill book to Jiu Hongling. Sister Ling, this is a high-grade Mystic class skill book. Even in our country, it's a national treasure. You can cultivate according to the contents inside. Yi Hao wasn't exaggerating. Yi Hao said that there were high-grade Mystic class skills books, but there wasn't even a single yellow class skill book. This skill book was a rare treasure, even in a vassal state. Your Highness, this is too precious. Jiu Hongling didn't dare to take it. Something that was considered a national treasure in Yi was very precious. Jiu Hongling was so grateful that tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't think that His Highness would treat her so well. She looked at Yi Hao with admiration. He had such achievements at such a young age. Not only did he unify the surrounding 100 li, but he also took out so many treasures. Who would dare to compare with him? I don't have any other cultivation pills right now. Sister Ling, there's no way you can slack off, joked Yi Hao. Yi Hao joked. Jiu Hongling blushed even more. She raised her nose and pouted. I didn't. Good. Yi Hao laughed when he saw Jiu Hongling's expression. That made Jiu Hongling even more embarrassed. That's right. Sister Ling, help me copy this skill book into 10 portions. Yi Hao suddenly remembered that he only had this one cultivation skill book. It was impossible for him to give it to everyone. That wasn't realistic. He could give a general a cultivation skill book, but for soldiers, it depended on their contributions and performance. So he couldn't give them a cultivation skill book. He would first give the soldiers the first cultivation skill book. If they wanted the next one, they would have to perform well. Don't look down on a high-grade mystic class skill book. Even Xiao Yun, who had become a martial king at such a young age, had only cultivated a high-grade yellow class skill book. It was easy to imagine how important this cultivation skill book was. Chapter 113. A month passed in the blink of an eye. After 10 days of work by Yi Hao, the Myriad Souls formation was finally completed. Killing Emperor Wu and those below the first tier was easy. However, Yi Hao was not too sure about those at Emperor Wu's level. Yi Hao had originally wanted to test the effects of the dragon's blood. However, after a few failed experiments, Yi Hao could only give up on it. After the reorganization, the army had finally expanded to 50,000 soldiers. All the soldiers had gone through military training before they were considered qualified. There were a total of 8 cities. Other than Yanhuang City, all of them had 5,000 soldiers. Yanhuang City soldiers had reached 15,000. The overall strength of the 8 cities was even greater than before. These bandits had a certain foundation to begin with. After the training in the barracks, as well as the stimulation of martial arts and cultivation methods, all of them used their own primitive power to cultivate. They only wanted to perform outstandingly to obtain spirit tools and be promoted to nobility. The 7 generals of the 7 cities were Huarong, Zhang Zhu, Yang Xiaodao, Li Jin, Zhao Zilong, Xiao Yun, and Dian Wei. What puzzled Yi Hao was that both Zhou Hongling and Zhao Zilong had told him that Qin Xiong had come to find him, but Yi Hao had not seen him at all. Yi Hao had sent out hundreds of people to gather information, but they had not found him. Yi Hao asked the system. After learning that Qin Xiong was still alive, he heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Qin Xiong was not in mortal danger, all was well. The bandits between the 7 cities were gone. Instead, the population had increased. Most of them had fled the chaos of war and had come here. After Yi Hao's propaganda, the population had nearly doubled. As for taxes, Yi Hao's head was spinning. Luckily, Shen Wansen had fully utilized his talent as a businessman. Yi Hao directly handed over the finances of the 7 cities to Shen Wansen. The 7 cities formed a triangular formation, surrounding and protecting Yanhuang City. As Yi Hao's base camp, Yanhuang City was even easier to defend and harder to attack. Without an army of 100,000, they could forget about taking down Yanhuang City. This army of 100,000 would have to pass through the 10,000 souls great design first. However, there were still some who were blind. Over the past month, the surrounding powers had been eyeing Yi Hao covetously. After a month of planning, the combined army of 100,000 soldiers from the 4 Marquette kingdoms had split into 4 groups. They were heading towards Shao City, Sparrow City, Tanji City, and Wind Cloud City respectively. They were trying to break through Yanhuang City in one go. Looks like I've been quiet for too long this month. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. At this moment, in the city lord residence of Yanhuang City, Yi Hao was listening to the reports from the soldiers sent by the 4 cities. This is a good opportunity for me to test the power of my myriad souls array. Yi Hao rubbed his chin, turned around, and said to his subordinates, "Pass down my orders. All the city leaders are to immediately lead their troops back to Yanhuang City. Remember to resettle the population properly. We cannot lose the hearts of the people." He had 50,000 soldiers now. Although their overall strength was not bad, they were too spread out. If there were too many enemies, they would definitely be defeated one by one. Therefore, only by gathering the troops together could they stand a chance against the enemy. Moreover, these soldiers of his had rested for a month. It was time for them to see some blood. Yi Hao's orders were quickly passed down. The soldiers of the 7 cities quickly gathered at Yanhuang City. At this moment, the 4 generals in the Allied army camp were naturally overjoyed when they heard that Yanhuang City was retreating. They also quickly gathered their troops. "Ah, I've said that Yin Huang City is strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. Recently, they have made quite a commotion. In the end, when they saw our army, they were so scared that they immediately retreated to their old nest. The general of Hu country, Hu Yirong, sat in the camp and laughed heartily. That's right. I've already sent people to find out. All the troops in Yin Huang City added up are only a quarter of our army. I believe that Yin Huang City is still in the dark and thinks that we only have 100,000 soldiers. Another skinny Jun Tianyu said. This is all thanks to Brother Tianyu's good plan. They should be thankful that they ran quickly and were able to live a little longer. Otherwise, they would have been trampled on. Irui's hen praised the middle-aged general sitting in the first seat. The middle-aged general was naturally pleased. The enemy had retreated without a fight in the first battle. Naturally, the Allied army's morale was greatly boosted. He was also very proud. This is the first time that our four countries are fighting together. This battle will definitely show our glory. Let our limelight overshadow Yin Huang City and let others know that Yin Huang City is just a joke. Everyone was in high spirits. It was as though they could already see the moment when Yin Huang City was taken. Now that they have gathered their troops, it saves us the trouble. Let's immediately move out and attack Yin Huang City. Jun Tianyu was very confident. He claimed that he had 100,000 soldiers, and Yin Huang City was already scared witless. If Yin Huang City knew that his army was actually 200,000, who knew how they would feel? At this moment, in the Yin Huang City residence, all the generals had gathered and were waiting for Yi Hao's arrival. Everyone is here. Yi Hao walked in from outside and said to the generals when he saw them. Seeing Yi Hao's smiling face, they stood up and bowed. Greetings, my lord. Why do you all look so miserable? Tell me about it. Yi Hao saw that everyone, including Dian Wei and Xiao Yun, was frowning and knew that they were worried about the enemy. He raised his teacup and asked. Dian Wei looked at everyone and stood up with his fists clasped. My lord, the enemy is attacking. Dian Wei pledges to fight to the death. We swear to fight the enemy with our lives. Please grant our wish, my lord. Everybody stood up and said after Dian Wei. They were all angry that they had retreated without a fight. Yi Hao looked at everyone's fearless expressions and asked, Then what are your chances of defending the city? Yi Hao retorted. Seeing their troubled expressions, he said, Since you know that you will lose, why defend the city? War requires brains. Don't fight to the death. It's like hitting a rock with an egg. We know we were wrong. All right, come with me. I'll take you to watch a great show, Yi Hao said softly. A show? Why we still need to watch a show at this time? Everyone looked at Yi Hao in confusion, but Yi Hao just smiled and said nothing. They could only follow Yi Hao to the city. They didn't understand what Yi Hao was going to do. Shouldn't he be setting up defenses or thinking of a way to fight? Why was he going to the city wall? Take my horse. Everyone come with me. Yi Hao got on the purple cry flying horse, followed by Dian Wei and the others. To reach Yin Huang City, they had to pass through 10 mountains of various sizes. Yi Hao led the puzzled people to a mountain. The stronghold here had been wiped out by Yi Hao. They climbed to the top of the mountain unimpeded. At this time, they could already see the mighty army approaching quickly. Chapter 114. What? Everyone's expression changed as they looked carefully. The more they looked, the more shocked they became. They thought that 100,000 enemies were strong enough, but now their numbers were doubled. If Yi Hao hadn't discovered it, they would still be in the dark. My lord, why don't we retreat? We can't lose all 50,000 soldiers here. As long as we have time, we can definitely make a comeback. Although Yang Xiaodao was usually careless, he was a cautious person. Otherwise, Yi Hao wouldn't have entrusted him with such an important task. There were many people in the army who were stronger than him. General Yang, it's too late now. The enemy has blocked the only exit of Yin Huang City. Li Jin observed the enemy and retorted, It's impossible to break out. It's better than waiting for death. If we rush out now, we might catch the enemy off guard. It's okay if we die, but my lord can't die, Yang Xiaodao said anxiously. In his heart, Yi Hao was more important than anything else. Yi Hao smiled and looked at Xiao Yun. Xiao Yun, what do you think? Xiaoyan didn't answer in a hurry. Instead, he thought for a while, looked at the enemy, and then at the mountains below. He clasped his fists and said, "My lord, I think we should set up some ambushes on the road to Yin Huang City. These mountains are easy to defend and hard to attack. They will definitely cause a lot of losses to the enemy." "Well, that's a good idea. My lord, let me lead an ambush," Dianwei said quickly. "General Dianwei, you have to protect my lord. Let me do this." Xiao Yun, who was dressed in white, stopped him with a smile. "There's no need for that. I've already told you to watch the show. Just stay here obediently." After Yi Hao finished speaking, everyone looked at Yi Hao's back in confusion. Could it be that the Lord had already made arrangements? In less than 15 minutes, the first vanguard of the enemy was about to reach them. When they were about to ask Yi Hao to return to the city, the enemy was suddenly in chaos. More than 20 cavalrymen rushed out of nowhere, followed by more than 100 soldiers. They were all very strong and instantly disrupted the 10,000-strong army. The 100 soldiers and 20 cavalrymen fought as if there was no one around. They didn't care about their lives and didn't have any flags. Just charge in that direction. Dian Wei and the others were shocked. Those cavalrymen were at least in the martial king realm. Also, seeing Yi Hao's confident expression, they naturally knew that it had something to do with Yi Hao. They were extremely shocked. Where did their master find these martial king cavalry? And they had no idea at all. "Let's retreat." Yi Hao glanced at the cavalrymen who were surrounded by the army. Although he felt a little heartache, he still said expressionlessly. He had spent most of his resources to exchange for these first-level martial king cavalrymen. After a month of plundering resources, he had only managed to summon 100 martial king cavalrymen. Moreover, if these 20 cavalrymen were to be surrounded, they would be in grave danger. Although the martial king realm was high, they could not fight against so many people. As for those 100 soldiers, their strength was also extraordinary. Every single one of them had reached the peak of the martial general realm. He had spent 25,000 soul points on them. However, after that round of attacks, the soul points in Yi Hao's mind had increased by over 40,000 points. Although the strength of these soldiers was low, Yi Hao could get 4 to 5 soul points on average by killing one of them. This meant that the previous round of attacks had killed at least 10,000 enemies. Yi Hao, who was on the horse, looked back and found that the battle was not over yet. He could imagine the strength of these cavalrymen and soldiers. "Rest in peace. I will cut off the heads of the enemy generals and offer them to you as a sacrifice." Yi Hao was no longer indecisive and said coldly in his heart, "Reporting to the 4 generals, our vanguard has been attacked fiercely by the enemy." The 4 generals listened to the report of their subordinates. The 4 generals did not seem to care. "How many people have come?" "Only a little more than 100. The subordinate reported truthfully. This made the 4 generals hold their stomachs and laugh even harder. The surrounding soldiers laughed so hard that they even dropped their weapons to the ground. "I say, did the people of Yin Huang City give up? What can 100 people do? You're telling me that they've been attacked fiercely." Iruizen laughed so hard that he almost fainted. When the subordinate saw everyone laughing, he said softly with a bad expression, "The weakest of these people is a peak martial general. There are also more than 20 martial king experts." The smiles on everyone's faces instantly froze. It was even uglier than a ********. 100 peak martial general and 20 martial kings. This made them unable to laugh no matter how hard they tried. It was not that the 4 allied armies could not produce peak martial general. However, they were their own personal bodyguards. Who would be so wasteful as to use them as cannon fodder? Probably only Yi Hao would do something like that. As for the 20 martial kings, they felt a chill run down their backs and broke out in cold sweat. They secretly rejoiced that there were troops in front of them. If the 20 martial kings attacked together, their heads would have been separated from their bodies. Even the 4 allied armies could not produce 20 martial kings. The 4 generals of the 4 Marquisate states were only at the peak of Wu Ho. Only Jun Tianyu had reached the first level of martial king. Therefore, the remaining 3 followed his lead. What's the situation now? Shi Hongmao asked with a malevolent expression. The 20 martial kings made him tremble in fear. The great generals all turned to look at that subordinate. Even the arrogant Jun Tianyu had a grave expression on his face at this moment. Our army has lost 13,000 men. More than 6,000 are seriously injured. The subordinate wiped the sweat off his face and said with a trembling voice, I'm asking you, how are the enemy's casualties? Although the 4 of them were heartbroken about their own casualties, they were more concerned about the 20 martial kings. If the 20 martial kings did not die, they would feel like a sharp sword was hanging over their heads. The enemy's generals and soldiers were all killed. 14 martial kings were killed. Only 6 escaped with serious injuries. Trash, a bunch of trash. You can't even kill 4 seriously injured people. Jun Tianyu flew into a rage out of humiliation. He drew his sword and cut the subordinate who was reporting in half. Brother Tianyu, what should we do now? The remaining 3 did not care about the deaths of their subordinates and asked anxiously. Jun Tianyu wiped his sword clean and sheathed it back into its scabbard. Yanhuang City cannot be left alive. Since we have already come this far, there is no chance for regrets. We can only destroy Yanhuang City in one go, no matter the price. Otherwise, we will be the ones to be destroyed. But no buts. Martial kings are not invincible. Didn't we kill so many of them? The rest escaped with serious injuries. Jun Tianyu's eyes were filled with killing intent. Besides, I don't believe that they can keep sending out martial kings. Do they really think that martial kings are cabbages? Pass down my orders. Regardless of the consequences, push the army into Yanhuang City. No matter how many martial kings come, they will be killed. Chapter 115. Under Jun Tianyu's orders, the army advanced at full speed. When they reached the second mountain, the soldiers were much more cautious. They observed their surroundings cautiously, afraid that Yi Hao's men would rush out from some corner again. However, when the army successfully passed through the second mountain, they did not see a single shadow. This made everyone heave a sigh of relief. After passing through the third mountain, they still did not see a single person. At this moment, the soldiers of the allied army heaved a sigh of relief. I knew it. Yi Hao could not possibly have so many martial kings. Just as I expected. A child is indeed a child. With so many martial kings, he did not treat them as his trump card. Let's see what this Yi Hao can do now. The 4 great generals said mockingly. Their hearts were slightly at ease. However, for their own safety, the 4 great generals had already hidden in the middle of the army. In order to survive, they could only exchange the lives of their soldiers for the lives of their martial kings. Giddy up, kill. Just as the 4 great generals were chatting happily, the deafening sounds of killing and the neighing of horses rang out again. However, this time, it came from 2 sides. Damn it, why did the enemy run to the back? Hu Yuerong cursed. General Yuerong, don't be angry. Even if he brings martial kings, how many can he bring out? 20? 30? Or 50? They can only delay our advance. Don't worry. Jun Tianyu was very calm at this moment. Surrounded by so many soldiers, he felt incomparably safe. In his opinion, this was just the final struggle of Yanhuang City. Martial kings were not cabbages. Yanhuang City could not possibly bring out so many martial kings. Moreover, no matter how strong the martial kings were, they could only face the fate of being slaughtered in front of this army. Brother Tianyu is right. Yanhuang City can bring out 20 martial kings at most. We only need to rest here for a while, and we will definitely take down Yanhuang City. Where did the master find so many martial king experts? Xiao Yun looked at the battle at the foot of the mountain in shock. He realized that he could never see through his master, who was younger than him, and had endless tricks up his sleeves. After a quick count, he realized that there were 30 martial kings below. It was as if the martial king knights had entered an unstoppable state. They charged forward side by side, leaving behind a ground full of corpses. They continuously broke through the enemy's defensive line and charged back and forth. They charged towards where there were the most people. They were like the Grim Reaper, reaping the lives of the soldiers. At this moment, the soldiers were even more helpless. They could only use their lives to fill the gap created by the knights. These generals are really ruthless. Yi Hao looked at the banners of the 4 generals who were hiding under the heavy encirclement and said disdainfully, "Since you want to use the lives of the soldiers to make up for your lack of cultivation, I will fulfill your wish." Yi Hao shouted a loud and clear slogan into the air. 2 more rows of Martial King knights charged out from behind the enemy troops. There were 10 of them in total. They charged into the enemy troops without any defense. Another 10 have come. Xiao Yun's eyes were filled with shock. Adding the Martial Kings from before, there were more than 60 of them. Other than the Martial Kings, which marquis would be able to take out such a large sum of money? Other marquis would treat a Martial King as a treasure. His master was different. He actually treated a Martial King as grass. As long as he used a Martial King as cannon fodder, a meat grinder, who would be so wasteful? At this moment, the 4 generals had also heard Yi Hao's whistle. They anxiously called for the soldiers to ask about it. What was that sound just now? And why do I feel that the battle this time is even more intense than before? At this moment, the soldiers were sweating profusely. The scene of the soldier being cut in half was still vivid in his mind. However, the 4 generals were staring at him. It was not a solution if he did not speak. He could only grit his teeth and say, reporting to the 4 generals, "This time, we are being attacked by 30 Martial Kings." The sound just now was heard. The enemy has added another 10 Martial Kings. Damn it! Jun Tianyu flew into a rage. He pulled out his weapon again and cut the soldier in half. The other 3 also looked at him with ugly expressions. Jun Tianyu's face was so dark that it was about to drip water. Wasn't this Yi Hao slapping his face? He had said that Yin Huang's city had at most 20 Martial Kings. Now, a total of 40 Martial Kings had come. Don't worry, Yin Huang's city should not have any more Martial King experts. Jun Tianyu looked at the doubtful and regretful expressions of the 3 generals and reassured them again. In his opinion, Yin Huang's city had sent out 60 Martial Kings. This should be the limit. This should be Yin Huang's city's final trump card. The 3 generals were still doubtful. They could only command the soldiers to kill the Martial King knights. After all, there was no reason to retreat at this point. If they were to retreat in defeat after seeing Yin Huang's city, their emperor would definitely not let them off. At this point, they could only grit their teeth and persevere. Whoosh! A loud whistle was heard again. The 4 generals and the hundreds of thousands of soldiers felt their hair stand on end when they heard it. This was because they knew what was going to happen next. Indeed, 2 more rows of Martial King knights rushed out from the left rear and joined the battle. This must have been an accident. Jun Tianyu said awkwardly when he saw the 3 great generals looking at him. Hopefully, before the 3 generals could finish speaking, a loud and clear voice sounded again, causing the hearts of the 4 generals to tremble. Oh my God, what is the background of Yin Huang City? Brother Tianyu, 80 Martial King Knights have already appeared in Yin Huang City. Why am I so weak? Stop talking. I don't know why I'm so weak. Hearing the cries of their soldiers begging for mercy, the 4 generals felt their hearts turn cold. They did not ask for anything now. They only asked that the voice would not appear again, and they would be satisfied. Every time the voice sounded, 10 Martial Kings would appear. Who could accept this? Don't tell them that Yin Huang City was poor and only had Martial Kings left. Perverted, Xiao Yun and the others could no longer describe their feelings. They looked at Yi Hao, who was playing happily at the side, and said at the same time, they finally knew why Yi Hao was not worried at all. With so many Martial Kings, anyone could sit back and relax. Just as Yi Hao was about to whistle, young Xiao Dao suddenly interrupted. Master, can you stop whistling first? Can you let me try to? Why? Yi Hao looked at the expectant young Xiao Dao in confusion. Wasn't it just a whistle? What was there to try? Yi Hao obviously did not understand young Xiao Dao's thoughts. Whistling once, and 10 Martial Kings would appear. How exciting would that be? With Yi Hao's approval, young Xiao Dao immediately whistled happily. He was not disappointed. 10 Martial King Knights suddenly appeared from the right front. Damn, it really works. Chapter 116. At this moment, what made people fearful was none other than the sound of the whistle. Once the whistle sounded, 10 martial kings would appear. Who could stand that? I don't believe that there are still martial kings in Yanhuang City. At this moment, Jun Tianyu was infuriated. He whistled into the air. If you have the ability, send 10 more martial kings. Go, 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 report. Another 10 martial king experts have appeared from the rear. At this moment, the 3 great generals were dumbfounded. They looked at Jun Tianyu strangely. Whose side was this guy on? Was his brain damaged? Damn it! Who was the one who blew it like a fart and stole my chance? Yang Xiaodao stood rooted to the ground and cursed. He looked at the others and realized that they were all looking at Yi Hao in confusion. Why are you all looking at me? Yi Hao's hair stood on end as he was stared at by his subordinates. He kicked a few of them in the buttocks, but none of them dodged. My lord, tell me the truth. That general leading the charge isn't one of your men, is he? Xiaoyan swallowed his saliva and looked at Yi Hao suspiciously. If the enemy general wasn't one of Yi Hao's men, was there something wrong with his head? Blowing a whistle to attract martial kings to kill his subordinates? Don't tell me that it was the enemy general blowing his whistle. Yang Xiaodao was a little slow to react. His mouth was wide open in disbelief, as though he had discovered a new continent. Can I say that I don't know anything? Yi Hao saw that his subordinates were looking at him with admiration. He didn't know what was going on and didn't know what was wrong with Jun Tianyu's head. If not for the fact that he knew that he had nothing to do with Jun Tianyu, Yi Hao himself would have suspected that Jun Tianyu was one of his men. His subordinates curled their lips in disbelief, thinking that Yi Hao was lying. Humph. The 2 of you lead the troops to kill the enemy at the rear. If we don't eliminate the enemy quickly, we will all die here today. Jun Tianyu didn't know how to explain himself, so he could only reply coldly. Although the 3 generals were dissatisfied with him, his prestige was still there, so he quickly prepared to counterattack. Seeing that Yi Hao was no longer whistling, Xiao Yun knew that there shouldn't be any martial kings left, so he reminded Yi Hao, Master, the enemy has begun their counterattack. However, to be able to bring out 100 martial kings, this number was still very terrifying. At the very least, it was something that he did not dare to imagine. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers, under the leadership of the generals, started to encircle the martial king cavalrymen. Martial king cavalrymen were constantly being pulled off their horses, and the martial king cavalrymen's attacks were greatly hindered. If this continued, the martial king cavalrymen would definitely be completely annihilated. No matter how strong a martial king was, he was no match for so many soldiers. Before the enemy realized what was going on, Yi Hao asked Dian Wei to blow a long whistle. As an expert of martial arts, Dian Wei's voice carried the power of martial arts. Naturally, the enemy's newly organized formation was disrupted again, as they thought that a more powerful attack was coming. Therefore, when the cavalrymen heard the whistle, they knew that it was an order to retreat. They immediately turned their horses around and retreated before the enemy could react. Oh no, stop them. They're trying to escape. We can't let them escape. Jun Tianyu reacted the fastest and immediately ordered loudly. Although the soldiers reacted quickly, who could stop a martial king cavalryman if he wanted to escape? Dozens of martial king cavalrymen fled, leaving the enemy's soldiers in the dust. No one dared to chase after them. The battle had yet to officially begin, but close to half of the 200,000-strong army had already been lost. The 4 great generals did not look too good at this moment. They had led an army of 200,000 and were full of confidence to attack Yanhuang City. In the end, half of their army had been wiped out halfway. How could they accept this? Brother Tianyu, what should we do now? Hu Yuerong asked with a long face. This was definitely the most humiliating battle he had ever fought in his life. He would definitely be punished when he returned. Brother Tianyu, are we still going to attack? Let's retreat to Sparrow City first, then discuss. Jun Tianyu glanced around and saw that the soldiers were dejectedly cleaning up the battlefield. He knew that it wasn't a good time to attack Yanhuang City. Otherwise, they would definitely lose. Moreover, even if they took down Yanhuang City, they wouldn't have many people left. Retreat to Sparrow City? The three generals shouted. They had already come this far. Were they going to lose everything just like that? They weren't willing to accept this. Why? Why don't you lead the troops and attack now? Jun Tianyu raised his eyebrows and looked at the three of them with dissatisfaction. The three of them looked at each other. No one dared to speak and led the troops in pursuit. Unless they were crazy, at least 30 to 40 martial kings had escaped just now. Who knew if there were more martial kings along the way? If there was another ambush, no one dared to be the first to attack. Let's retreat to Sparrow City first. I will decide. Seeing that the three of them had nothing to say, Jun Tianyu turned his horse around and retreated to Sparrow City. The three generals had no other choice but to follow. My lord, the enemy seems to have retreated. Huarong noticed that the enemy's flag was actually moving towards Sparrow City and reported. Let's go back and have a celebratory feast. Yi Hao had just finished speaking when Xiao Yun immediately stopped him. My lord, be careful of the enemy's tricks. Don't worry. The remaining defeated soldiers won't be able to escape, Yi Hao said confidently. There were only about 100,000 soldiers left. Just the 10,000 souls formation alone was enough to make them suffer. If his guess was right, the enemy would definitely launch a sneak attack on Yanhuang City. Therefore, on the way back to Yanhuang City, Yi Hao secretly opened the 10,000 souls formation while no one was paying attention. From the outside, the 10,000 souls formation couldn't be seen at all. However, if one stepped into the formation, one would definitely die. Let all the soldiers rest. Returning to Sparrow City, Jun Tianyu immediately ordered, Brother Tianyu, we have lost close to 60,000 soldiers in this battle. There are fewer injured, about 10,000. The Martial King's soldiers were basically killed in one hit. The injured soldiers were basically trampled to death by themselves. Irui's Hen reported after calculating the number of casualties. Everyone, right now, most of them are eyeing us covetously, waiting to see us make a fool of ourselves. I believe that there are still many people eyeing the position of general. Seeing the three of them nod in unison, Jun Tianyu continued, Therefore, we have to take down Yanhuang City. Even if we have to die together, we have no way out. At this moment, Yanhuang City shouldn't be having a good time either. I believe that they have used up all their trump cards. Otherwise, they wouldn't have retreated at the critical moment. Chapter 117. Brother Tianyu is right. I believe that Yanhuang City is not having a good time either. The main reason is that we were caught off guard. We did not expect Yanhuang City to have so many martial kings. That was why we were caught off guard. The three great generals agreed with Jun Tianyu's words. Seeing that his words were effective, Jun Tianyu continued, Tonight is the best opportunity. We will attack Yanhuang City at all costs. Jun Tianyu punched the table to vent the anger in his heart. Instantly, the black wooden table shattered into pieces. Although it was a celebratory banquet, the food was only slightly better. Yi Hao had a feeling that there would be a battle tonight. The enemy would definitely not let go of this opportunity. Therefore, Yi Hao got the soldiers to rest early. Master, do you think the enemy will launch a sneak attack tonight? Hua Zhao Zilong followed behind Yi Hao. At this moment, Zhao Zilong's strength had been raised by Yi Hao to the pinnacle of martial general. After cultivating the Black Cloud art himself, he had broken through to the third tier of Wu Ho. One could see how important talent was. It had only been a few days. He had already broken through to the third tier. All the rewards for cultivating the Black Cloud art had improved greatly. However, he had not. No matter how he cultivated, he did not feel anything. In the end, the system told him that he had to complete the heart of the strong mission before he could cultivate it. Returning to the country of Yi could not be delayed. Besides, Yi Hao was very concerned about Yi Batian. After such a long time, he still did not know how his father was doing. Deep into the night, the roars of wild beasts could be heard from the mountains. The bright moon in the sky was blocked by thick, dark clouds at this moment. At this moment, the night was pitch black. However, the four great generals led their subordinates and threw away all their burdens. They marched towards Yanhuang City at lightning speed. In order to prevent alerting the enemy, everyone was actually advancing on foot. When they reached Little Fish Mountain, they could already see the shadow of Yin Huang City from afar. It was very blurry. However, the senses of a martial king were very strong. Jun Tianyu realized that the defenses of Yin Huang City were very loose and was delighted. Our chance is here. We will definitely take down Yin Huang City in one go. Jun Tianyu suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and whispered, "Look, what is that?" Hu Yuerong pointed at the mountain of corpses and asked. The mountain of corpses had undergone special treatment, so it was a pile of tens of thousands of skeletons piled up into a mountain. Looking at it in the middle of the night, it was a vast expanse of white, looking very terrifying. People are saying that Yi Hao is crazy enough to create a mountain of corpses. I didn't expect it to be true. Irui Zen followed the gaze and said in shock. No matter what, they were experienced generals. However, they had only heard of corpses, and this was the first time they had seen one. Especially in the middle of the night, the sight of it sent chills down their spine. No wonder people said that corpses had the effect of intimidating the enemy. The generals didn't feel anything. After all, the mountain of corpses was just a pile of skeletons. However, some of the soldiers' legs were already trembling uncontrollably. They didn't dare to look at the mountain of corpses in front of them, afraid that the skeletons would suddenly come back to life. Why do I feel like something isn't right? Why is it so eerie? Jun Tianyu suddenly stopped and asked. I have the same feeling too. I feel like Yin Huang City is right in front of me. But after walking for so long, why haven't we arrived yet? Irui Zen also stopped. When he turned back, his heart was in his throat. Corpse mountain. What's wrong with the corpse mountain? Hu Yuerong saw Irui Zen making a fuss and turned back. Her gaze changed instantly. This was because the corpse mountain had disappeared. There was clearly a corpse mountain just now, but now it had become a pile of graves. The four generals turned back at this moment and realized that the 100,000 soldiers had also disappeared. No matter how they called out, no one answered. Come take a look. Irui Zen ran to the four larger graves. The weapon in his hand dropped to the ground in fright as he shouted in panic. Jun Tianyu and the rest came over to take a look. The four graves had their names inscribed on them. On them were their life experiences and how long they had lived, all the way until they attacked Yin Huang City and died in the chaos. This is impossible. This is impossible. I can't be dead. Irui Zen hugged his head and was in a state of madness. Calm down. We have barged into a spirit design. Jun Tianyu slapped Irui Zen's face and instantly sobered him up. Damn it. Why would there be a spirit design master in Yin Huang City? Jun Tianyu looked around cautiously. There was only one explanation for this strange phenomenon, and that was that they had entered a spirit design. Spirit design? The three generals were tongue-tied. For them to fall into a spirit design unknowingly, one could only imagine how strong the person who had set it up was. If not for Jun Tianyu's reminder, they might have been in a dead end. Even they were in such a state, let alone the soldiers. Irui Zen, are you all right? Shi Hong Mao, who had always been on bad terms with Irui Zen, suddenly walked to Irui Zen's side with a smile and wanted to help him up. Jun Tianyu's face was filled with disbelief as he stared at Shi Hong Mao. Shi Hong Mao's actions made him feel quite strange. Suddenly, a white light flashed in Shi Hong Mao's hand as Jun Tianyu quickly attacked Shi Hong Mao. Brother Tianyu, what are you doing? Hu Yuerong and Irui Zen looked at Jun Tianyu in shock. They did not understand why he would suddenly attack one of their own. Jun Tianyu did not speak. He only spoke after killing Shi Hong Mao. He is a fake. Hu Yuerong and Irui Zen did not believe him at first. Only when they saw Shi Hong Mao turn into a pile of white foam did they believe Jun Tianyu's words. This spirit design is too strong. We can't see through it all. For safety's sake, the two of you follow behind me. Jun Tianyu said nervously. At this time, he was already drenched in cold sweat as he spoke to the two of them. The two of them were also fearful. When they heard Jun Tianyu's words, they immediately ran behind Jun Tianyu, seeking protection. Jun Tianyu was about to speak when he felt a chill on his back. Turning back, he saw the two of them looking at him with sinister expressions. Two weapons were stabbed into his vitals. If one stood outside the spirit design, they would see that behind Jun Tianyu were two skeletons. There was not a single person. From the moment they stepped into the spirit design, they were moving independently. Everything around them was an illusion. The other generals were experiencing the same thing as him. Yi Hao stood on the city wall and looked at everything in front of him. He did not expect Jun Tianyu to be so unlucky. During the day, the spirit design would definitely not be so strong. Even during the night, it would not be so strong. Who asked him to choose a cloudy night today? Chapter 118. Not good. Yi Hao's gaze changed as he immediately asked the weapon spirit of Dragon Prison Lake. Little ball, if we activate the 10,000 soul array on a cloudy night and kill too many people, will it produce a heavenly Een spirit? What? Heavenly Een spirit? You couldn't have activated the 10,000 soul array on a cloudy night, right? You're crazy. The weapon spirit was originally lying lazily on the head of the huge dragon. When he heard Yi Hao's question, he instantly jumped up and turned pale with fright. It's just an accident. Yi Hao realized that something was wrong and scratched his head in embarrassment. However, he felt that he had lost face and coughed dryly. Quickly tell me if it's possible or not. You brat. I don't have time to explain to you. If you want to live, quickly turn off the array. The weapon spirit already knew that Yi Hao had activated the 10,000 soul array. He no longer had the chance to explain. If a heavenly Een spirit was really produced, the consequences would be unimaginable. A cloudy night only appeared once every 10,000 years, and a heavenly Een spirit had a very small chance of being produced. However, his condition was that it had to be on a cloudy night. A heavenly Een spirit had only appeared 3 times in the 10,000 Kingdom continent. Each time, it would set off a bloody storm in the 10,000 Kingdom continent. This was because the heavenly Een spirit was too powerful. A powerful heavenly Een spirit could even summon an incomparably powerful heavenly Een beast. There is only one way for a heavenly Een spirit to become stronger, and that was to kill. Therefore, no one dared to set up a killing array on a cloudy night. The 10,000 soul array was even more of a killing array. It would increase the chances of a heavenly Een spirit appearing. When a heavenly Een spirit appeared, the first to be devoured would definitely be the person who set up the array. If Yi Hao attracted a heavenly Een spirit, Yi Hao would definitely die. At this moment, a top evil force in the 10,000 Kingdom continent was rapidly setting up a killing array in an attempt to summon a heavenly Een spirit. All of you better remember this. There must not be the slightest mistake when summoning the heavenly Een spirit. I have waited for this day for thousands of years. A martial saint-level old demon said in a hoarse voice under a black robe. Old ancestor, don't worry. Everything has been prepared. The person who made the sacrifice also followed your instructions and plundered 10,000 wandering, ordinary people. No one will find out, a martial emperor in the middle said while trembling as he knelt on the ground. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and summon them. Our holy blood demon cult has been silent for many years. It's time to awaken. The old monster quickly walked into the center of the array. If he wanted to subdue the heavenly Een spirit, he would have to risk his life and let the heavenly Een spirit fuse with him. Only then would he have a chance to subdue the heavenly Een spirit. However, if he was not careful, a martial saint of a generation, a peak existence in the myriad kingdom continent, would fall. Ancestor, isn't this too risky? If something happened to the great ancestor, the holy blood demon cult would suffer a devastating blow. Therefore, the middle-aged martial emperor was hesitant. Cut the crap. I've been waiting for this day for far too long. A cloudy night only happens once every 10,000 years. If you miss this chance, you won't get another one. The martial saint felt a bit impatient, and without moving, a wave of power burst out from his body and slammed into the martial emperor's face, sending him flying. I know my mistake. Thank you for sparing my life, great ancestor. The martial emperor did not even have time to wipe the blood off his mouth, as he quickly got up and knelt on the ground to express his gratitude. The array was activated. 10,000 innocent people were thrown into the array by the martial emperor. In an instant, they were crushed into pieces by the martial saint's aura. Blood splattered everywhere. 10,000 people were killed by the martial saint in an instant, and they were turned into sacrifices to summon the heavenly spirit. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, the martial saint suddenly opened his eyes and leaped toward a black dot. The martial saint immediately swallowed the black dot into his body. How is the great ancestor? The martial emperor knelt on the ground and asked with concern, "Protect the great ancestor." Seeing that the martial saint great ancestor did not respond, the martial emperor ordered. 5 martial emperors flew out from the darkness and guarded the great ancestor. The martial saint great ancestor suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, but he still sat there without moving. His expression was ferocious. The martial emperors were nervous. When they saw the great ancestor spitting out blood, they became even more worried. This meant that the heavenly spirit did not compromise with the great ancestor. Instead, it was attacking him from within his body. To be able to make the martial saint spit out blood, one could imagine how powerful the heavenly spirit was. The anxious wait was very long. This was a matter that concerned the life and death of the Holy Blood Demon Church. If the great ancestor died, the Holy Blood Demon Church would fall again, and there would be no chance for them to rise again. If the great ancestor could reach an agreement with the heavenly spirit, then the Holy Blood Demon Church would rise again and stand at the top of the 10,000 Kingdoms continent. Victory or defeat, it all depended on whether the great ancestor could reach an agreement with the heavenly spirit. Suddenly, the great ancestor emitted a murderous aura that covered the sky. The martial emperors instantly fell to the ground, unable to resist. Then, the great ancestor withdrew his aura, and the martial emperors stood up. "Are you the great ancestor? Or?" one of the martial emperors asked with uncertainty. They did not know if the great ancestor was still alive, and whether it was the great ancestor or the heavenly spirit. "It's me," the great ancestor said with a hoarse voice. "Great ancestor, you succeeded." When the martial emperors heard the great ancestor's words, they immediately rejoiced. The Holy Blood Demon Church can finally rise again. "Yes, I have already reached an agreement with that person." "That's right. Earlier, I was severely injured and will need to enter closed-door cultivation for a period of time. So, you all must not leak any information. Otherwise, everything we did would have been in vain." The great ancestor's voice became even more deep and terrifying, suppressing the martial emperors to the point that they could not breathe. "Don't worry, great ancestor. Only the few of us know about this." The great ancestor nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly, he was stunned for a long time before he said, "That person has something to tell you all." "That person?" The martial emperors were stunned. However, they immediately knew that the heavenly spirit wanted to instruct them on something. They immediately knelt on the ground. "Lord Heavenly please instruct us. I sense an aura that is no weaker than mine in the southwest. Quickly go and investigate," the heavenly spirit said with a grave expression. The heavenly spirit said with a serious expression. There was only one heavenly spirit, and the other one had to be destroyed. Therefore, he had to be careful. "There's another one." The martial emperors revealed expressions of disbelief. "Don't worry, Lord Heavenly we will investigate quickly." "It's over. The heavenly spirit seems to have appeared," Yihao said with a bitter expression when he saw the clump of black fog in the 10,000 soul formation. Yihao clearly knew that the clump of black fog was the initial state of the heavenly spirit. The artifact spirit frowned and quickly thought of a solution for Yihao. "Don't be anxious. This heavenly spirit might be a fortuitous encounter for you." The artifact spirit suddenly laughed heartily when he saw the huge dragon below him. Chapter 119. Are you going to listen or not? If you don't, it will be too late. When the immortal treasure spirit saw that Yi Hao was still in the mood to joke, he could not help but want to scold him. However, time was tight, and it would be too late. The appearance of the heavenly Yin spirit would definitely lead to a massacre. Yin Huang City would be the first to bear the brunt and would definitely suffer a destructive blow. Listen, speak quickly. He's about to rush out. When Yi Hao saw the heavenly Yin spirit charging around in the array, he realized the severity of the situation and did not dare to joke anymore. Don't worry. The 10,000 souls array is a pretty good array. He won't be able to rush out for a while. If you continue talking nonsense, he will really come out. Yi Hao looked a little anxious. He had already seen that a few of the array foundations of the array had been destroyed. How many people have you killed? The immortal treasure spirit asked in surprise. If he had only killed a few thousand people, the heavenly Yin spirit would not be so strong. Brat, you couldn't have killed tens of thousands of people, right? Yi Hao touched his forehead embarrassedly. Just a few 100,000 enemies. I did not expect it to develop to this stage. Originally, Yi Hao only wanted to use the 10,000 souls array to deal heavy damage to the enemy. He also did not expect that the array would be strengthened by dozens of times during the heavenly Yin night. A few 100,000. That's it. The immortal treasure spirit fell from the dragon's body to the ground. How strong would the heavenly Yin spirit be to use a few 100,000 lives to summon it? This was also why the heavenly Yin spirit of the Holy Blood Demon Church could discover the heavenly Yin spirit on Yi Hao's side. It was because the heavenly Yin spirit here was much stronger than it. It had already made it feel threatened. Hence, it sent martial emperor experts to investigate. Brat, if this happened to others, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Currently, there are only 3 ways to deal with the heavenly Yin spirit. No matter which way it is extremely difficult, the immortal treasure spirit said to Yi Hao seriously. Yi Hao listened carefully. The first method is to eliminate the heavenly Yin spirit before it awakens its intelligence. However, even if the heavenly Yin spirit doesn't awaken its intelligence, it's still something you can't do. Furthermore, it's the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Summoning the heavenly Yin spirit is even more impossible. The second method is to cooperate with the heavenly Yin spirit. This is also the simplest method, but it will also put your life in danger. The second method mentioned by the artifact spirit was naturally the method used by the patriarch of the blood demon cult. The patriarch of the blood demon cult was a martial sage, yet had almost been devoured by the heavenly Yin spirit. The heavenly Yin spirit in front of Yi Hao was much more powerful than the patriarch of the blood demon cult. This was because the heavenly Yin spirit would instantly gain sentience in order to cooperate with it. How can we reach an agreement? I'll go look for him now. When Yi Hao heard this, he hurriedly said, if he let the heavenly Yin spirit rush out, he could only wait for death. If he cooperated with the heavenly Yin spirit, he might be able to save his life. Moreover, the artifact spirit said that this was the easiest way. Don't be hasty. If you want to cooperate with the heavenly Yin spirit, you will basically become the heavenly Yin spirit's slave. You have to think this through. Yi Hao's expression changed. In order to survive, he had to become a slave of the heavenly Yin spirit. Didn't they say that they could reach an agreement? Moreover, you're so weak now. The heavenly Yin spirit will definitely look down on you. You won't be able to escape the fate of being devoured. The artifact spirit continued to attack. Damn, I don't even want to be his slave. Then I'm just waiting for death. That's right, I still have a teleportation talisman. Why don't I teleport away now and come back to kill him when I'm strong enough? Yi Hao was deeply shocked. He suddenly remembered that he still had a teleportation talisman in his bag. Back then, he had teleported here using the teleportation talisman. Don't even think about it. You're the master of the 10,000 souls array. No matter where you run, the first person the heavenly Yin spirit will kill will be you. The artifact spirit dispelled Yi Hao's thoughts of escaping. Moreover, if you run away, what will happen to your subordinates? This was what Yi Hao was most worried about. He frowned and asked, can the dragon prison lake trap him? The Dragon Prison Lake was his greatest trump card now. It could trap a martial sage. However, the artifact's spirit's vitality was greatly damaged now. It was impossible for it to trap a martial sage. However, he was not sure if it could trap the heavenly Ean's spirit. This is also the third method that I'm talking about. The third method is one of the most difficult methods. There must be some conditions. First, you must have the dragon's blood essence. This is enough to make people flinch. Second, the most important thing is that you must have the legendary Heart of Array. You have both of these things. Therefore, you have the opportunity to subdue the heavenly Ean's spirit for your own use. That's why I said that this is an opportunity for you. The artifact's spirit's tone carried a trace of envy. Who could have the dragon's blood essence and the Heart of Array at the same time? Moreover, Yihao even managed to catch the rare heavenly Ean Knight. This kind of luck, how many people could compare to him? He had no impression of anyone who could subdue the heavenly Ean's spirit. Today, he was going to witness it personally. Moreover, this person was his master. Why didn't you say so earlier? You made me worry for nothing. Yihao said angrily. After all this time, the artifact spirit had already found a solution and was still trying to scare him. However, when he thought about subduing the heavenly Ean spirit, Yihao couldn't help but feel a little anticipation. In the Myriad Kingdom continent, he could be considered the first person to subdue the heavenly Ean spirit. Little dragon, quickly give me a drop of dragon's blood essence, Yihao said to the dragon. Although the dragon felt a little heartache, it quickly spat out a drop of dragon's blood essence. Yihao was secretly glad that he didn't kill the dragon. Otherwise, where would he find dragon's blood essence? Even if there was, it would be eaten by him. Dragon's blood essence was extremely precious. The dragon's blood essence was the essence of the dragon. The dragon's blood essence was an item of extreme yang. It was a natural counter to the heavenly Ean spirit and could temporarily subdue it. Not good. It's coming out. Yihao saw the heavenly Ean spirit flying towards him and anxiously shouted to the artifact spirit. Be careful. While the heavenly Ean spirit isn't paying attention, put the dragon's blood essence on its body. When the time comes, I will suck both of you into my space. At that time, you can use the Heart of Array. Whether or not you succeed will depend on yourself. The artifact spirit's heart was also in its throat. Whether or not it would succeed, no one had used this method before. It was only recorded by a martial god in history. If it was fake, Yihao would die without a doubt. It's close. Closer. Yihao looked at the heavenly Ean's spirit flying towards him. He didn't dare to relax in the slightest and kept reminding himself in his heart. Now's the time. Yihao saw that the heavenly Ean spirit was less than 10 centimeters away from him. A dark aura enveloped his body, causing him to be unable to breathe. Yihao shouted and pressed the dragon's blood essence on the heavenly Ean spirit. The heavenly Ean spirit's movements suddenly stopped. It just stood there in front of him. Chapter 120. When the heavenly Ean spirit was frozen, the weapon spirit immediately sucked Yihao and the heavenly Ean spirit into the space. At the same time, the weapon spirit shouted, "Hurry up and open the heart of the formation." Yihao didn't dare to be careless and immediately opened the heart of the formation. Ding dong. Heart of formation activated. Ding dong. Discovered heavenly Ean's spirit. Do you want to absorb it? The system's notification immediately sounded. Yes. Ding dong. Collecting 1%, collecting 2%, collecting 4%. Why is it so slow? Can it be faster? The dragon's blood essence had a limited effect on the heavenly Ean's spirit. According to the system's speed, it couldn't be in a hurry. By then, he would be dead. Sorry, host. This is the fastest speed at the moment. The system said coldly. Giant dragon, it's too late. Hurry up and give me more dragon's blood essence. Yihao realized that the frozen heavenly Ean spirit was already reacting. He had only collected 30% of it, and could only continue to use the dragon's blood essence to overcome the heavenly Ean spirit as he shouted at the giant dragon. The giant dragon also stared at Yihao and the heavenly Ean's spirit in fear. Its eyes were filled with worry and nervousness. When it heard Yi Hao's words, it immediately spat out another drop of dragon's blood essence. At the same time, its aura weakened again. Giant dragon, give me your blood essence. Don't forget that I'm a master of this space. Otherwise, this drop of dragon's blood essence would definitely not be enough. The giant dragon didn't hesitate and immediately threw the dragon's blood essence to the weapon spirit. At this moment, the heavenly Yin spirit was struggling even harder. The weapon spirit immediately took out the materials from the space and formed an array. At the same time, it placed the dragon's blood essence into it. Little ball, hurry up. Yi Hao couldn't move at all and could only speak. He was sweating profusely as he shouted at the weapon spirit. At this moment, a simple and mysterious array appeared in Yi Hao's eyes. It shot out a golden light that enveloped the heavenly Yin spirit. The heavenly Yin spirit was struggling even harder. Array complete. The weapon spirit was sweating profusely as its body became abnormally weak. At the same time, the array instantly emitted a strong light that enveloped the heavenly Yin spirit. The heavenly Yin spirit was suppressed once again. This time it went very smoothly. Finally, there was no danger. The heavenly Yin spirit could only stand there unwillingly, allowing Yi Hao to absorb it. Ding dong. Thank you for successfully absorbing. The heavenly Yin spirit turned into a black pearl and shot into Yi Hao's eyes, occupying the heart of the formation. Phew, it's a success. Yi Hao heaved a sigh of relief. The artifact spirit and the giant dragon also smiled at each other. System, help me check the heavenly Yin spirit. Yi Hao only felt the heavenly Yin spirit enter his body, but there wasn't any big change, and he didn't notice any abnormalities in his body. Heavenly Yin spirit, divine item. Current level status, weak. It could strengthen darkness-type attacks, strengthen darkness-type formations, and suppress darkness-type attacks. It doesn't seem to be of any use. Yi Hao scratched his head. If the people from the Blood Demon Church knew that Yi Hao subdued the heavenly Yin spirit so easily, they might want to skin Yi Hao alive. The heavenly Yin spirit has been subdued and is now in its weakest state. But as long as it develops, it will become abnormally strong. The artifact spirit saw the dissatisfaction on Yi Hao's face and weakly explained, "Moreover, it has been subdued by you before it even developed its own intelligence. Only if you think of a way to make it develop its own intelligence will it be able to display its true power. Moreover, the heavenly Yin spirit can also summon other heavenly Yin spirits. You have to know that its attack power is much stronger than the fierce beasts in the 10,000 countries continent. The heavenly Yin beast is completely born to kill. It doesn't know pain and only knows how to attack. Cultivators and magical beasts of the same level are far from being a match for the heavenly Yin beast. Every time the heavenly Yin beast appears, it would cause a bloody storm in the entire continent. So I'm reminding you that before you become completely strong, you can't let others know that you have the heavenly Yin spirit. If others know, it will definitely attract the pursuit of experts because the heavenly Yin spirit is too strong. It is an existence that some experts can't tolerate. Moreover, the heavenly Yin spirit has always been worshipped as a sacred object by the evil demon cult. Yi Hao naturally knew the principle of an innocent man getting into trouble for possessing a jade ring. It was just that he didn't expect that the heavenly Yin spirit would be so strong in the later stages. That person has actually been subdued. In the secret chamber of the holy blood demon cult, the blood demon ancestor suddenly opened his eyes and muttered, "But this way, he will become very weak in the early stages. That will give me the chance to devour him." The blood demon ancestor let out a terrifying laugh. "Men, what orders does the ancestor have?" A black figure appeared and knelt at the door of the secret chamber. He asked with a trembling voice, "Go and tell your cult master to increase the manpower again. You must find the owner of the heavenly Yin spirit. Mainly investigate the people who have outstanding performance in the dark side. After you catch them, quickly bring them back. I would rather catch the wrong person than let them go." Now that the heavenly Een spirit had been subdued, it would be almost impossible to easily detect his aura. However, if one subdued the heavenly Een spirit and used the dark side cultivation techniques or martial techniques, they would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Thus, he could only start from this aspect. He definitely couldn't allow the other heavenly Een spirit to become stronger. Otherwise, he would be the only one to be devoured. If not for the blood demon ancestor being heavily injured and unable to move, and his own strength being greatly reduced, he would have immediately gone out to search for the other heavenly Een spirit. Now that the heavenly Een spirit had been subdued, it was definitely a rare opportunity for him to devour it. Before that heavenly Een spirit had developed intelligence, he already felt that it was much stronger than him. However, the person who could subdue the heavenly Een spirit had to fulfill at least two conditions. Thinking of this, the blood demon ancestor opened his blood-red eyes again. Mainly, go and investigate which formation inscriber has a huge dragon. Yes, the black figure disappeared at the door of the secret chamber. Yihao still didn't know that he had been targeted by a martial sage expert. He was currently organizing people to clean up the battlefield. At this moment, the sky was already bright. The heavenly Een night had also passed. The soldiers and generals of Yin Huang City didn't know what had happened. The 10,000 spirits formation had isolated all sound. It was only when Yihao opened the 10,000 spirits formation that everyone was shocked to discover that Yihao had actually wiped out all 100,000 enemy troops without them knowing. They didn't know about the heavenly Een night. They only thought that it was because Yihao's spirit formation was strong. 200,000 troops besieging Yin Huang City had ended in such a dramatic manner. The other powers still hadn't received any news of this. Deal with these corpses again and expand the mountain of corpses. Let them see that this is the consequence of offending Yin Huang City. Yihao instructed his subordinates. Chapter 121. The nearby snobs no longer dared to underestimate Yin Huang City. Yihao's name had also spread to the nearby snobs. The annihilation of 200,000 troops from the four Marquis states had also become the biggest joke. However, the four Marquis states could only swallow their pride for now. After losing so many troops, their strength had decreased greatly. How would they dare to continue attacking Yin Huang City? Instead, they had to prevent other countries from taking advantage of them. This also prompted the four Marquis states to join forces to resist external enemies. And the status of Yin Huang City was no weaker than that of the four Marquis states. Currently, none of the snobs dared to start another war. Instead, they shook their heads and watched. However, everyone could see that the current peace was only temporary. The four Marquis states would not be so willing to suffer in silence. Your Highness, can you bring me back with you? I want to take care of you. Jiao Hongling's small eyes were red as she looked at Yihao. Her slender, white fingers were constantly playing with the corner of her clothes. Sister Ling, I will be back soon. Besides, I still need your help with the matters of Yin Huang City. Yihao did not intend to bring Jiao Hongling back. After all, it was too dangerous to bring her along. Besides, Yin Huang City was full of men. A woman had to take care of it. Jiao Hongling was more meticulous. Naturally, it would be best to leave it to her. Yihao upgraded the 10,000 spirits design once again. However, this time, only the range had widened. The attack could still deal with a Tier 2 Emperor Wu. However, it could deal with 200,000 troops at the same time. One could say that Yin Huang City was absolutely safe. As for the remaining 40 Martial King cavalrymen, Yihao took 10 of them with him. As for the generals, they were all left behind in Yin Huang City. The remaining 7 cities had also been taken over by Yihao's men. Each city was guarded by 3 Martial King cavalrymen. At the same time, under Yihao's orders, they were recruiting troops at full speed. Under the allure of rich rewards and the temptation of cultivation techniques, many refugees flocked to Yin Huang. Besides, the reputation of Yin Huang City had spread for thousands of miles and attracted many refugees. After all, Everyone wanted a strong backing. That's a little awkward. Yi Hao sat on the dragon and looked at the vast forest below. He held the map that Jiao Hongling had drawn for him. In the beginning, Yi Hao had a rough idea of where he was, but now he had no idea where he was. He had to admit that he was lost. If I had known earlier, I would have brought Sister Ling along. Yi Hao was annoyed. Wait a minute. I think I heard someone calling for help. Yi Hao suddenly vaguely heard a voice shouting for help. Xiaolong, put me on the ground. The giant dragon quickly landed and placed Yi Hao on the ground. Yi Hao kept the giant dragon into the dragon prison lake and summoned the purple cry, flying horse, to quickly determine the direction. Ouch, it hurts. A purple-clothed girl was running at high speed. If the Great Sun Dynasty's emperor saw her here, he would definitely recognize her. She was one of the two divine envoys. He didn't know why she had run here and was being chased by a magical beast. The purple-clothed girl quickly got up from the ground and rubbed her knee that was in pain. She ran again with a stubborn expression. Oomph. Smelly sister, bad sister. You actually left me here alone. How would I know where the Yi country is? There were two martial emperors hidden in the dark. They were observing the girl's condition. Should we save a little princess? The great princess has instructed that if the little princess's life is not in danger, we cannot make a move. Not good. The little princess is in danger. A thin martial emperor was anxious and was about to make a move. Wait a minute, a little fellow is coming. Another fat martial emperor immediately pulled the thin martial emperor back. Yi Hao rode on the purple cry, flying horse, and saw a peak rank 2 spirit crocodile chasing after a purple-clothed girl. Beast, you're courting death. Yi Hao saw the purple-clothed girl fall again. The spirit crocodile was about to pounce on the girl. He immediately took out the blood-scarred dual blades and pounced on the spirit crocodile. The spirit crocodile had already opened its bloody mouth. The girl was so frightened that her face turned pale. She immediately closed her eyes in fear. Broken mountains and rivers. Yi Hao furiously shouted. The blood-scarred dual blades flashed with a blood shadow and chopped down on the spirit crocodile's body. Although the spirit crocodile is a rank 2 demonic beast with astonishing defense, it could not withstand the destructive power of the blood-scarred dual blades. The spirit crocodile's body was instantly torn apart. The spirit crocodile struggled for a while before it stopped moving and laid down in a pool of blood. Ding dong! Congratulations on obtaining 1 spirit. Apart from Yi Hao, no one else saw a small black dot fly out from the spirit crocodile's body and enter the heavenly spirit. Damn it! Where did this brat come from? He completely messed up this young master's plan. Song Jiji furiously said with a group of servants following behind him. But why do I feel that this brat's figure gives me a familiar feeling? Song Jiji suspiciously looked at Yi Hao. As Yi Hao was riding on a huge dragon, he did not want others to see his appearance. Therefore, he had used the appearance-changing pill. Moreover, Yi Hao's body was a Xiantian sacred martial spirit body. Later on, his body was transformed by the huge dragon's blood. Currently, although Yi Hao was not old, his height was not inferior to a 14 or 15-year-old youth. Song Jiji naturally could not see Yi Hao's appearance. Young master, what should we do now? A servant carefully asked. Let's go. I have been eyeing this little beauty for a few days. We definitely cannot let that brat snatch her away. Song Jiji's face was filled with the aura of silk pants. Ever since the Yi country had split, the crown prince had hugged onto a powerful thigh. Song Jiji's status had also skyrocketed. Moreover, the crown prince had also bestowed him with a pile of treasures. Song Jiji's strength had also skyrocketed. Now, an unknown brat dared to ruin his plans. He would definitely teach this brat a lesson. This brat's aptitude is not bad. The two hidden martial emperors looked at Yi Hao approvingly. At the same time, their attention was also on Song Jiji. There's some little things over there. They have bad intentions. There is no need to kill them. As long as nothing happens to the little princess, there is no need for us to do anything. If someone has bad intentions, we will just destroy their country. the other martial emperors said softly. It was as if destroying a country was as easy as crushing an ant. The first princess asked us to stay here and look for that evil brat Yi Hao. However, it has been so long and there is no news at all. We should go back. Shut up. You don't want to live anymore. If Imperial Ant finds out, she will exterminate your 9 generations. What are you afraid of? The heavens are high and the Emperor is far away. Who can control us? However, I heard that the first princess and the little princess were picked up by Imperial Ant. Imperial Ant has the intention of betrothing the 2 princesses to her son. However, the Divine Emperor has always refused. This time, he sent us to look for this Yi Hao. Do you think it has something to do with this matter? The thin martial emperor said mysteriously. That evil brat wants to be worthy of the 2 princesses? You should know that the 2 princesses have peerless physiques. In the future, they will inherit the divine bloodline. How can that evil brat be worthy of them? Chapter 122. Thank you. The purple-clothed girl opened her eyes and was surprised to see a strange young man. However, she quickly reacted and thanked him. Yi Hao smiled and reached out his hand. You're welcome. Why are you here alone? Did you get separated from your family? With a single glance, Yi Hao could tell that this girl wasn't an ordinary girl. He tried to use appraisal on her, but he couldn't find anything. It seemed that she had a powerful treasure on her, or perhaps his level wasn't high enough to see her information. The purple-clothed girl hesitated for a moment and reached out her dirty little hand with a smile. Yi Hao pulled her up. It's so smooth. Yi Hao felt the softness in his hand. He could not help but pinch her little hand a few times as he muttered softly. What did you say? The girl raised her head and asked curiously. She did not hear what Yi Hao said clearly. Nothing. Yi Hao smiled awkwardly. However, he forgot to let go of the girl's hand. The girl then realized that her hand was still in Yi Hao's palm. She immediately knew what Yi Hao was talking about. Feeling the warmth in her palm, she could not help but blush. This was the first time she had held a man's hand since she was young. Even her father had never held her hand before. The purple-clothed girl saw Yi Hao holding her little hand with a clear conscience and was a little embarrassed. What's wrong? Hand? Can you let go? The purple-clothed girl stood on the spot and stamped her little feet with a shy look. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Yi Hao suddenly realized and looked embarrassed. However, the moment he let go, he still pinched her hand twice more. It would be strange if you didn't do it on purpose. The purple-clothed girl snorted. Hello, I'm ZMO. What's your name? ZMO asked politely to ease the awkwardness. Who killed my ghost crocodile? Apologize to me quickly. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving here today. Before Yi Hao could finish his words, Song Jiji suddenly jumped out with a group of underlings. They surrounded Yi Hao and ZMO arrogantly. Song Jiji? Why is he here? His strength seems to have increased a lot. Did something happen in Yi? Yi Hao was suddenly interrupted. He was very unhappy. However, when he saw Song Jiji, he could not help but frown. Song Jiji was the son of the right prime minister and also the first prince. Back then, Yi Hao was Song Jiji. Yi Hao. Yi. Brat, did you kill my ghost crocodile? Hurry up and apologize to me. Song Jiji looked down at Yi Hao condescendingly. Since he couldn't be a hero and save the damsel in distress, he would use his usual methods to snatch her away. Hey, you're quite arrogant. Guys, show him what you're made of. Song Jiji did not expect Yi Hao to be so tough. His expression changed. He could not lose face in front of a beauty. He felt like he was slapped in the face by Yi Hao. He was furious. Following Song Jiji's call, a few of his underlings immediately took up their weapons and pounced on Yi Hao. Clang! Clang! Yi Hao was wearing the Bloodscar armor. It was a level 4 spiritual artifact. Song Jiji's underlings were only level 1 martial generals. Even if Yi Hao took off his armor, these underlings would not be able to cause any damage to Yi Hao with his 30 times defense. You dare to go against me? You're courting death. Song Jiji thought that Yi Hao was dead for sure. He rubbed his palms and looked at ZMO with a lustful expression. Little girl, play with me. I'll let you eat and drink well as long as you serve me well. Young master, just kill him and bury him. Why are you calling me? When Song Jiji heard his underlings calling him because Yi Hao was killed, he did not mind at all. He had killed many people like this. He was very confident in his underlings. They were all nurtured with treasures given by the first prince. In the entire country of Yi, they could do whatever they wanted. They were his father's personal bodyguards. They were sent to protect him because he cared about him. Yi Hao still did not know that the country of Yi had been divided into 5 forces. They were the 5th prince, who had already proclaimed himself as the emperor. It was just that he had not been recognized yet. However, there was a mysterious force behind him that was helping him. The other forces did not dare to underestimate him. Similarly, the first prince had proclaimed himself as the southern prince. He had allied himself with the Zhao country, which used to be his enemy. The Qin country was supporting him. The second prince had proclaimed himself as the northern prince. Naturally, he had a king's force behind him, which was the 9th heaven. The third prince had proclaimed himself as the western prince. The fourth prince had proclaimed himself as the eastern prince. They had both pledged their allegiance to the marquee forces. The 5 forces were fighting against each other. No one could do anything to each other. Ziamo opened her small mouth with a look of surprise. He said his name is Yi. Could he be Aunt's son, Yi Hao? But it seems impossible. The defensive spiritual weapon on him is at least a 4th grade. As the princess of the nation of God, Zimo had a good eye. At the same time, she had some hope that the person in front of her was Yi Hao. This way, she could complete her mission. However, she felt that it was impossible. Yi Hao had disappeared for more than half a year. It was impossible for him to appear here. Moreover, his appearance and height did not match. Little girl, don't be afraid. It's just a piece of trash. I'll get my underlings to get rid of him immediately. When Song Jiji saw Zimo's sexy little mouth open, he secretly swallowed his saliva. He thought that Zimo was afraid after seeing Yi Hao being hacked to death. He comforted her and reached out his demonic hand to grab Zimo. When Song Jiji saw that Zimo was standing still, he was even more delighted. He thought that Zimo had already submitted to his dominance. He had never played with such a beautiful girl before. Moreover, Zimo's clothes were torn in some places when she was running for her life. Moreover, her small face was dirty and her beautiful black hair was slightly messy. This aroused Song Jiji's desire even more. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath of Zimo's wonderful fragrance. You don't want to live anymore. Do you believe that I won't kill you? Song Jiji felt that his wrist was suddenly grabbed. He suddenly opened his eyes and scolded angrily. You're not dead. Song Jiji looked at the young man standing in front of him with a face of surprise. He turned around and saw that his servants were all lying on the ground, unconscious. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Yi Hao squeezed Song Jiji's wrist and gradually increased his strength. Song Jiji's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. At first, he could still endure it, but when his bones were crushed by Yi Hao, he immediately cried out loudly. Boy, let go of me quickly. Otherwise, you better think about the consequences. Although Song Jiji's wrist was almost broken, his face was still full of arrogance. What if I don't let go? Yi Hao did not expect Song Jiji to be so unyielding and continued to tease him. My father is the prime minister of Yi country. My father is Prince Nan's man. You better think carefully. You are now in Yi country. Chapter 123. What's wrong? Are you afraid? If you're afraid, then kneel down and apologize to me. After that, break your own arms. If I'm satisfied, I'll spare your dog life. Seeing Yi Hao in a daze, Song Jiji thought that Yi Hao was frightened. He struggled free from Yi Hao's grip and said angrily. In his entire life, he had only suffered 2 losses. The first time was when he suffered at the hands of Yi Hao at Yanhuang Tower. He didn't know if Yi Hao was dead or alive. Otherwise, he would definitely teach him a lesson. At that time, Yi Hao was a prince, and he had no choice but to lower his head. But now it was different. His father was a favorite of Prince Nan. This reckless brat actually dared to provoke him. No matter what, he wouldn't let him off. Seems like you don't want to live anymore. Yi Hao was extremely irritated. The sudden appearance of Prince Nin caused him to lose his composure. He kicked Song Jiji in the stomach. Suppressing the killing intent in his heart, he placed the blood-stained dual blades on Song Jiji's neck. The sharp blades instantly cut through Song Jiji's skin. Don't be rash. Song Jiji's face turned pale as he felt the burning sensation on his neck. He didn't doubt that if Yi Hao's hand moved slightly, his life would be lost here. Speak. Is the prince Nin you're talking about the eldest prince? Yi Hao's face was filled with killing intent. Song Jiji's countenance changed as he carefully surveyed Yi Hao. However, he had never met this young man before. With traces of bewilderment in his voice, he asked, "Yes, the southern prince is the crown prince of Yi country. Could it be that you are acquainted with him?" "Know him?" Yi Hao coldly snorted in his heart. However, Yi Hao didn't wish to reveal his identity. He wanted to know what exactly happened in Yi. He immediately kept his weapon and shook his head. "I'm not acquainted with him. I'm only someone from Yi and have heard of the crown prince's deeds since I was young. After that, I went out to study under a master and just recently returned." Yi Hao's expression was a bit melancholic. Song Jiji also believed him a bit. Hearing that Yi Hao didn't know Prince Nan, he let out a sigh of relief. If Yi Hao really knew Prince Nan, he would have suffered for nothing. Since it's like this, it's really a big misunderstanding. "I apologize to you." Song Jiji got up, covered his wrist, and bowed apologetically to Yi Hao and ZMO. I want to let you be arrogant for a while. You will suffer when you return to the city." The moment he bowed, a cold smile flashed across Song Jiji's face. "There's no need." ZMO's face was cold. She would not bother with such a playboy. "Let's go." ZMO pulled Yi Hao's shoulder and was about to leave. "What?" Yi Hao's face was puzzled. Why did ZMO who was very embarrassed when he held her hand, suddenly take the initiative? "Don't. Come with me to South King City. I have offended you so much. Give me a chance to apologize." Song Jiji hurriedly smiled and tried to persuade them to stay. He couldn't just let the two of them go. There was no other way here. He could only delay the two of them first. When they arrived at South King City, he could do whatever he wanted. If Song Jiji didn't say so, Yi Hao would have asked him to do so. As for Song Jiji's thoughts, how could he not know? He asked half-jokingly, "Don't tell me you want to trick me into coming to South King City and then deal with me." Cough. How could that be? "I'm sincerely apologizing." Song Jiji was a little embarrassed by Yi Hao's words. He squeezed out a very awkward smile and said, "I'm joking. You don't look like a despicable person. Only a narrow-minded person can do such a despicable thing." Yi Hao patted Song Jiji's shoulder with a smile. He didn't know whether it was intentional or unintentional, but he just happened to pat Song Jiji's injured arm. That's right. Song Jiji grimaced in pain as he sucked in a breath of cold air. He wished he could kill Yi Hao right now, but he still had to put on a smile and trick Yi Hao back to South King City. "If I don't make you beg for death, then I'm not Song Jiji. If you want to go, you can go. I'm not going." ZMO looked at Song Jiji, who seemed to be up to no good. She thought that Yi Hao was stupid to talk so happily with him. She pretended to be angry and said, "Brother, let's go." Yi Hao glanced at ZMO who was sulking at the side. He shook his head with a smile and ignored her. "Hey, you big bad guy. You're really willing to leave me here alone." ZMO didn't expect Yi Hao to leave just like that. Her cheeks were puffed up, and she put her hands on her waist and shouted loudly. Seeing that Yi Hao was still ignoring her, she stomped her feet angrily and immediately chased after him. "What are you doing? Why aren't you going home? Why are you following me?" Yi Hao looked at ZMO, who was hanging on his shoulder like a burden, and asked speechlessly, "It's none of your business." ZMO, who was obviously still angry. She looked like she didn't want to talk to Yi Hao. Song Jiji led a group of servants and walked in front of each other, supporting each other. Yi Hao and ZMO walked behind. Ziming's flying horse also followed behind Yi Hao. "Ouch! What's wrong now? I'm tired from walking. Let's ride a horse." "I don't know how to." Yi Hao couldn't stand this weird little girl, and could only carry her onto the horse. "Hey, what's this? It's quite comfortable to sit on. I want to get one for my Xiaohong too." Zmo pointed at the saddle under her, but asked in puzzlement, "I thought you didn't know how to ride a horse?" Yihao sat behind and hugged Zmo's waist. The strange fragrance on Zmo's body made him a little restless. "Who said that Xiaohong is a horse?" Although he was young, his physical development was comparable to a 14 or 15-year-old boy, and his mind was clear. Moreover, Zmo was moving back and forth in his arms. "Don't move." Yihao gently hit the back of Zmo's head. "I didn't know that you were so smart." Zmo thought that the saddle was invented by Yihao, so she didn't care that Yihao hit her. She praised him. "Should we do something about this? Men and women shouldn't touch each other. The little princess has a noble status. How can this country boy touch her?" The thin martial emperor said angrily when he saw this scene. "The little princess is unruly and willful. She's also more playful. If you're not afraid of disturbing her fun, she'll teach you a lesson. Go ahead." The fat martial emperor glanced at the thin martial emperor and said. The thin martial emperor swallowed his saliva and said, "Forget it. Just pretend that I didn't see anything." After walking for half a day, they finally arrived at South King City. Yihao took a closer look and found that there were indeed many king's flags hanging on the city walls. The entire city was expanding. This means that it's going to catch up with the capital of Yi. Chapter 124. "Stop, who are you? Open your dog eyes and see who I am," Song Jiji scolded. The leader of the city defense immediately smiled apologetically and said, "So it's young Master Song. Why are you back so early this time?" The leader of the city defense was puzzled. Right now, Song Jiji's father was Prince Nan's favorite person, and Song Jiji was his only son. Naturally, Song Jiji's status in Prince Nan's city was second only to the Prince Nan. How could these small soldiers dare to provoke him? Moreover, Song Jiji always went out for 10 days to half a month, but he came back in less than 2 days. Young Master Song. Who are this young master and young lady? The leader of the city defense looked at Yihao. Song Jiji walked, but Yihao rode a horse, and it was obvious that it was a spiritual cult. Their status was naturally different, so he asked carefully, "Don't talk nonsense. Arrest them for me." Song Jiji changed his usual demeanor at this time and looked at Yihao and Zmo mockingly. "Boy, you've come to my territory today, so don't think about leaving here alive. And you little girl, serve me well tonight, or I'll sell you to a brothel. Arrest them for me." When the leader of the city defense heard Song Jiji's order, hundreds of soldiers rushed out of the city and immediately surrounded Yihao. "Boy, quickly get off the horse and surrender. Be careful not to suffer physical pain." The leader of the city guards shouted at Yihao with a pitiful look on his face. How could he not know about Song Jiji's character? Either Song Jiji was greedy for money or Song Jiji was greedy for women. The leader of the city guards had helped him a lot with these kinds of things. He had no choice but to do it. Who asked him to have a good father? If he did not catch Yihao, he would be the one who was unlucky. "Attack!" Song Jiji shouted. Hundreds of soldiers instantly waved their weapons and slashed at Yihao. "Don't hurt that little girl." Song Jiji did not forget to remind them with a proud expression. "You want to fight with me?" "Song Jiji, why are you back? What's going on here?" "Greetings, Your Highness." A group of horses came out of the city. The leader was one of Yihao's brothers, and he greeted Song Jiji. "Hey, how did you get these injuries? Did you encounter some powerful magic beast?" Eighth Marquis sneered as he glanced at Song Jiji's miserable appearance. "Don't mention it. It's that boy." Song Jiji pointed at Yihao and said. At this time, Yihao as a soldier was defeated. Yihao did not kill them, but it was inevitable for them to be bedridden for a few months. "Damn, this guy is so powerful. He. Don't worry. I asked around. This boy used to be a citizen of Yi country. It is said that he worships Prince Nan." Although Song Jiji was surprised by Yihao's strength, he did not care about Yihao's background. He believed Yi Hao's words without a doubt. What did you say? Worships big brother? Eighth prince looked at Song Jiji with a pondering expression. Song Jiji nodded and said, Yes, he said himself. Is there a problem? You. The eighth prince pointed at Song Jiji. He was very angry, but he had nothing to say. At this critical moment, if he could recruit Song Jiji to be his big brother's subordinate, then his big brother would have one more capable helper in the fight for the throne. If not for Song Jiji's father, he would have killed this brainless trash who only knew how to cause trouble. All of you stop. Eighth Lord immediately stopped them. Even if he did not stop them, only 4 or 5 of the 100 soldiers were left standing. Seeing this scene, he was even more certain of his thoughts. He was so young and had such strength. He must recruit him for his big brother. Song Jiji looked at Yi Hao suspiciously. Do they know each other? Eighth brother. Yi Hao frowned when he saw Eighth Lord, but he did not rush to speak. Friend, may I know your name? I am the 8th Lord of Yi Country. 8th Lord reported his identity with a smile. Greetings, 8th Lord. My name is Yi Shui. Yi Hao randomly came up with a name and replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He did not know what this 8th brother wanted to do. Yi Shui, 8th Lord, did not expect Yi Hao's surname to be Yi. But when he thought of the huge population in the world of 10,000 kingdoms and Song Jiji saying that Yi Hao was from Yi Country, he felt relieved. However, Song Jiji stared at Yi Hao from the side. Why does he feel so familiar, yet so unfamiliar? Have I seen this kid before? But this kid's skills are so good. I don't have any impression of this person. Zmo, who was sitting on the horse, felt Yi Hao hugging her from behind. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of cunning. Yi Shui, Yi Hao, is there a connection between them? Brother Yi Shui, I wonder which country you belong to. 8th Prince probed. I have been cultivating with a rogue cultivator since I was young. After my master passed away, I was alone. Now I want to come back and take a look. Yi Hao casually made up a reason and said, In that case, Brother Yi Shui, are you interested in being a valiant general and expanding the territory of our Yi Country? Hearing that Yi Hao was alone, 8th Prince was overjoyed and tried to recruit him with a smile on his face. About this, Yi Hao showed an awkward expression and looked at Song Jiji. Yi Hao's meaning was self-evident. 8th Lord instantly knew that Song Jiji had made Yi Hao unhappy, so Yi Hao was unwilling to join them. He was even more dissatisfied with Song Jiji. Your father is also a talent. How did he give birth to such a trash? Why are you looking at me? When Song Jiji heard 8th Wang Ye's words, he was very unhappy in his heart. If Yi Shui joined Prince Nan, it would be difficult for him to take revenge. He jokingly said, Don't tell me you still want me to apologize to you? Stop dreaming. 8th Lord, this is really making things difficult for me. I will take my leave. Yi Hao smiled bitterly and shook his head. He turned his horse around and was about to leave. Right now, Yi Hao's biggest wish was to find out what happened in Yi Country. Back then, he sent Sun Xin to the first prince's side. As long as he could find Sun Xin, he would be able to understand the current situation of Yi Country. However, if he could get to the first prince's side, that would be even better. Brother Yi Shui, please wait. 8th Lord saw that Yi Hao was really about to leave and hurriedly stopped him. Quickly apologized to Brother Yi Shui. 8th Prince winked at Song Jiji and pretended to be angry. Song Jiji was very unwilling, but he could not give face to 8th Lord. He gritted his teeth and said, I'm sorry. Brat, don't fall into my hands. Song Jiji, will not let you off. Song Jiji suppressed the anger in his heart. After apologizing, he immediately turned around and entered the city. He had suffered losses in Yi Hao's hands several times in a row. It made him lose face. Chapter 125. 8th Wang Ye also did not pay attention to Song Jiji. Song Jiji was just a playboy. How could he be compared to a talented general? Moreover, at this critical moment, the 5 forces were chasing the throne together. One more talent was one more force. In his eyes, Yi Shui's strength was at least at the mid-level of a martial general. Even his elder brother did not have many such masters around him. The key was that Yi Hao was alone and so young. With a little training, he would definitely become a valiant general. However, he did not know that the future valiant general in his heart was his younger brother. If he knew, how would he feel? Since the Eighth Lord has sincerely invited me, I dare not refuse, Yi Hao said pretentiously with a fist salute. Yi Hao inadvertently saw his portrait on the city wall. The words "wanted criminal" were imprinted in his eyes. What mockery! Yi Hao felt that the pain of cultivating the innate sacred martial spirit was not even 1,000th of the pain of this wanted poster. But now, the eighth Wang Ye was so respectful to an outsider. Could it be that he couldn't stand his half-brother, who had the same father, but a different mother? ZMO saw the change in Yi Hao's expression. What's wrong? Are you unhappy? No, it's just that I left my hometown when I was young. Now that I'm back, I miss it. Yi Hao had forgotten that the little girl in his arms was looking at him with her head tilted. He came back to his senses and said half-truthfully, ZMO, nodded thoughtfully and squeezed into Yi Hao's arms again. The Eighth Lord did not take Yi Hao to the palace. As if he could see Yi Hao's doubts, the Eighth Lord explained with a smile, Brother Yi Hao may not know, but the palace is currently being expanded. His Highness Prince Nan is temporarily staying in the Prince Nan's residence. Eighth Lord, I've just returned to the kingdom of Yi, so I'm not very well informed. When I was young, I heard that the kingdom of Yi does not allow people to be crowned as kings. Yi Hao was riding side by side with the Eighth Lord and took the opportunity to ask. The Eighth Lord was silent for a long time. Yi Hao quickly laughed. If there's any inconvenience, just pretend that I didn't ask. Yi Hao's tactic of retreating in order to advance was very effective. Eighth Wang Ye didn't suspect anything. He smiled and said, Brother Yi Shui, even if I don't tell you about this, you'll find out when the time comes. So, there's nothing inconvenient about it. Thank you, Eighth Wang Ye, for clearing my doubts. Yi Hao cupped his fist again and pretended to be curious. Sigh. This is also the shame of my Yi country. Eighth Wang Ye sighed. The group of guards behind him also had a desolate expression on their faces. Eighth Wang Ye continued. Some time ago, the late emperor led his troops to battle and was kidnapped by a mysterious expert. His whereabouts are still unknown. Kidnapped by a mysterious expert. Do you know who the eighth prince is? Yi Hao's expression changed when he heard this. But in order not to let others find out, he could only suppress the anger and worry in his heart. No one noticed Yi Hao's abnormality because Yi Hao hid it very well. However, ZMO was lying in Yi Hao's arms. She could clearly feel that when Eighth Wang Ye said that the late emperor was kidnapped, Yi Hao's body trembled violently. I've admired the late emperor since I was young. The late emperor was extremely brave. When I heard that the late emperor was kidnapped, I was naturally furious. I believe that all the generals would think the same. Yi Hao's words instantly attracted many people's agreement. No matter what, Yi Baishan's influence in the Yi country was indelible. Sigh, I heard that it was someone from the Great Sun Dynasty. However, I don't know if it's true, Eighth Wang Ye said with a sigh. Great Sun Dynasty, if you really kidnap my father, I'll massacre your entire country. Yi Hao's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he clenched his fists secretly. As a son, if he couldn't even save his father, his only relative, then what was the point of living? Master, there must be something else. There's no reason for a dynasty to kidnap the emperor of a duchy. Moreover, he said that your father was kidnapped. This means that your father is definitely still alive, and what? The giant dragon's voice reached Yi Hao's mind. Only then did Yi Hao feel slightly relieved. However, he would soon reach the Great Sun Dynasty. When he heard the giant dragon's words, Yi Hao's heart was in his throat again. Duchy Marquis Kingdom. After the Ling Dynasty was the Imperial Dynasty. In an instant, Yi Hao felt immense pressure. Even if he added in the power of Yanhuang City, he could only have a little status among the weak Marquis. All his trump cards combined were not comparable to the lowest kingdom. Moreover, it would take at least a dozen kingdoms to be comparable to the lowest imperial dynasty. It was conceivable that the Great Sun Dynasty was like a huge mountain that was pressing on Yi Hao's heart. However, in order to save his father, no matter how huge the mountain was, it had to be flattened. Therefore, he had to seize the power of Yi country as soon as possible. Moreover, what the giant dragon said was very reasonable. Why would such a huge imperial dynasty kidnap his father? Although his father was also an emperor, he was like an ant in front of them. Would a giant be calculative with an ant? Even if they would, there would be a reason for it. They could just crush the ant to death. Why would they do something so superfluous? If they wanted to kidnap him, even if they did not send someone to kidnap him, they could have just sent someone to pass on the order. His father would have to go obediently. No matter how he thought about it, the Great Sun Dynasty would not kidnap his father for no reason. As for the reason, however, regardless of whether there was an ulterior motive, he had to become stronger, unify the country of Yi, and raise the level of the country. Moreover, I have discovered that there are two experts in the dark who are much stronger than me. If I'm not wrong, they're at least at the martial emperor level. The giant dragon continued. Right now, his cultivation level had not fully recovered. Otherwise, two martial emperors would be nothing in his eyes. When did they appear? Yi Hao did not think that he was attractive enough to attract two martial emperors. He looked suspiciously at Zmo, who was sitting in front of him. It's when Master saved this little girl. As expected, Yi Hao had already guessed that Zmo's identity was not ordinary. However, he did not expect her to have two martial emperors as her bodyguards. No matter what, I have to be careful. At this moment, Yi Hao finally understood how important it was for him to use the disguise pill under the instruction of the weapon spirit. Yi Hao would never have thought that his father's kidnapping was related to Zmo. At this moment, he only thought that Zmo was someone from a big faction. As for why she would appear here, he did not know. He did not connect the two at all. However, it was fortunate that he had used the disguise pill. Otherwise, the two martial emperors would definitely not let him go. Moreover, Zmo had appeared in the country of Yi to look for him. At this moment, Yi Hao was wholeheartedly thinking of unifying the country of Yi. However, the enemy he had to face now was his half-brother. He did not know what to do. However, he had already seen more than a dozen arrest warrants for him in the city. This made his hesitant heart even more resolute. Chapter 126. Jir, why are you back so early? What happened to your injuries? When Song Kong heard the guard report that his son had returned, he quickly put down the things in his hands. When he saw the wounds on Song Jiji's body, he hurriedly asked with heartache, "You pieces of trash, how did you protect the young master?" Men, drag them out and beat them up. Looking at the guards who were also injured, Song Kang's eyes flashed with a trace of viciousness. The guards cried and begged for mercy as they were dragged away by a group of people. Song Jiji did not beg for mercy for his subordinates. "My son, aren't you a third-rank martial general? Did you encounter a powerful magical beast?" Song Kong did not understand how his son had suffered such heavy injuries after going out for a trip. "Father, you have to uphold justice for your son." Song Jiji immediately cried with snot and tears. He was also worried that Yi Hao would not be able to take revenge after being recognized by Prince Nan. Therefore, he could only look for his father and say that Yi Hao was unforgivable. Only then would he be able to take revenge. "Hurry up and bring me my medicinal pills." Song Kong hurriedly ordered the maid. At the same time, he pulled Song Jiji to the front of the chair. "My son, don't cry. Who hurt you? Even if I have to sacrifice my old life, I will avenge you." The moment Song Kong spoke, his body emitted an aura. Song Jiji's face lit up. "Father, you've broken through to the 8th rank martial general?" "Yes, it's all thanks to the envoy of the Qian country who contributed some pills to Prince Nan. Prince Nan rewarded me with a few pills. The current me is much stronger than the previous Yi Batian. In the past, the Yi country was restricted by the Qian country, so the strongest warrior had not reached the martial general level. Now, that Prince Nin was cooperating with the Zhao country and the Qin country, his strength naturally increased by leaps and bounds. Although the Yi country was torn apart, its overall strength had increased by more than one level. Even a playboy like Song Jiji could reach the first rank of martial general. It could be imagined that as long as there was a miracle pill, even a pig could become a strong person. Father, I was injured by a nameless junior. He even stole your daughter-in-law. Seeing that his father's strength had risen to the 8th rank of martial general, Song Jiji was once again filled with hope for revenge. His father was so important to Prince Nan. Would Prince Nan alienate his father for a nobody? Song Jiji revealed a sinister smile. Song Jiji added oil to the fire, saying that Yi Hao was an unpardonable sinner. He and ZMO had fallen in love at first sight, but in the end, Yi Hao had interfered, and Song Kong had actually believed it. Song Kong narrowed his eyes. Are you saying that the boy named Yi Shui was taken away by the 8th prince? Song Jiji nodded. That's troublesome. Song Kong knew his position very well. Although he was below tens of thousands of people, he was still a person with a high status. But compared to the 1st prince and the 8th prince, the two of them were blood-related brothers. It was not good for him to interfere in this matter. However, on one side was his precious son, and on the other side was the 8th prince. Song Kong was in a dilemma, but he still chose to avenge his son. How strong is that kid? I don't know. Let me go to Prince Nan's place to take a look. I will definitely not let this kid go. Song Kong was more cautious. After all, as the prime minister, he still had to figure out Yi Hao's strength. If he was weaker than him, he could just kill him directly. He believed that Prince Nin would not make things difficult for him. If he was stronger than him, he could only think of countermeasures. Greetings, big brother. The 8th prince entered the study first and greeted him. Sigh, 8th brother, how many times have I said it? We are brothers. There is no need for these unnecessary formalities. Prince Nin saw that it was the 8th prince and quickly stood up to help him up. He smiled and asked, 8th brother, didn't you go out to look for Prince Ran? Why are you back? The 8th prince immediately replied with a smile, Big brother, that matter is not urgent. It's not like you don't know Ran Min. Many people have been sent to join forces with him, but they were all sent back by him. This time, it will be difficult for me to go. 8th brother, you can't say that. If it wasn't for my status, I would have gone to see Ran Min. Prince Nan thought that the 8th prince had given up and comforted him. Big brother, I didn't say that I won't go. Why are you in such a hurry? The 8th prince said with a smile, I have something to report to you. Something? Prince Nin squinted his eyes and looked at the 8th prince in confusion. What could be more important than this? You must know that there is still a month before the battle for the throne. We don't have time. Big brother, I met a talent when I went out this time. The 8th prince said happily. Oh, where? Prince Nan's heart was moved. Prince Nan's face suddenly changed. What is this person's background? Could he be a spy sent by those princes? The spy that Prince Nan was talking about was naturally the other prince's man. Hearing this, the 8th prince's face changed slightly. He recalled Yi Hao's words and replied with a smile. Don't worry, big brother. I know what kind of people they have. This time, this person is really a talent. He definitely has nothing to do with them. That's good. Prince Nin nodded with satisfaction. By the way, do you have any clues about Yi Hao's matter? You must know that the battle for the throne is about to begin. The other princes are already very competitive. If Yi Hao comes out at this critical time, Yi Hao suddenly became strong from a fool to a genius. It was impossible that there was no one helping him. Now that they had obtained some resources, their strength was also increasing. They were even more sure that Yi Hao had someone helping him. Qiangua and the people of the 9th heaven had said that Yi Hao was not dead. Although Yi Hao had disappeared for almost a year, he had always been a thorn in the prince's hearts. If they were not careful, they would repeat the mistake of the Imperial Dragon list. The princes were constantly fighting among themselves, but they had always been doing the same thing. That was the look for Yi Hao. Every corner of the Yi country was covered with Yi Hao's portrait. Even when Yi Batian was kidnapped, the Yi country did not mobilize so many people. How ironic was that? No. The eighth prince shook his head in disappointment. Prince Nen sighed. Prince Nen sat on the chair and continued to ask, "Tell me the background of the talent you mentioned. I will analyze it." Eighth Wangye recalled everything and told Prince Nen everything without missing a single detail. "You were saying that he has a conflict with Song Jiji?" Prince Nan frowned. "Then why did you bring him here? Aren't you deliberately causing a conflict between me and Prime Minister Song?" Prince Nin rebuked. "But big brother, this person is really strong and very talented." The eighth prince did not expect Song Kong to be so important in Prince Nan's heart. But when he thought about how Yi Hao could easily defeat more than 100 city gate guards, he said unwillingly, "Reporting to your highness, General Sun requests an audience." A guard said carefully, "You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.